Chapter 43-26. Other than that, Qin Feiyong waved his hand again, and another interspatial ring appeared. What is this? Several people were surprised. There should be more than 200,000 ultimate profound inheritances of ordinary laws. You can put these inheritances into the heavenly cloud divine treasure. It can also be considered as giving other ordinary creatures a chance. Qin Feiyong smiled. The blood ancestor and the other two looked at each other. This kid was really dedicated to the heavenly cloud realm. The Feather Emperor stood up and cupped his hands. On behalf of the heavenly cloud realm, I sincerely thank you. Ancestor, what are you saying? Isn't this what I should do? Besides, how can I accept this bow of yours? I'm afraid my life will be shortened. Qin Feiyong shook his head. You brat. The Feather Emperor laughed and looked up at the sky. If Big Brother knows that there is a descendant like you, I believe he will be very happy in the underworld. Human Emperor, Qin Feiyong murmured. The biggest regret in his life was that he couldn't see this great ancestor. Then he looked at Yun Xiang. Why are you looking at me? Yun Xiang was suspicious. Nothing. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and smiled. Ancestor, Big Brother. Have you been sure over the years whether he is the reincarnation of the human emperor? We have been observing him. However, it doesn't look like it. Although Yun Xiang's character is not bad, compared to the human emperor, it seems to be a lot worse. The blood ancestor thought. What do you mean? We know the human emperor too well. He has never had the slightest selfishness for the sake of the world. If there is a saint in this world, then he must be a saint. But Yun Xiang, we all think that he is too selfish. Of course, his selfishness is nothing compared to those who are truly selfish. But compared to the human emperor, he is indeed a lot worse. Little Rabbit said, it is normal for people to be selfish. Furthermore, after reincarnation, his personality will definitely change. Qin Feiyong mumbled. We thought so too. But it's still a little hard to accept. Because Yun Xiang's talent, courage and responsibility are far from the human emperor's. The blood ancestor transmitted. If he isn't, why would the princess of the divine kingdom strip the ultimate profound and give it to him? Qin Feiyong asked secretly. This is also what we can't figure out. Maybe he really is the reincarnation of Renhuang. Maybe it's just as you said. After he was reincarnated, many things changed. Little Rabbit said. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said to himself, let's not talk about this for now. There was no point in discussing this now. Since he was going to return to Great Qin, he could just ask Ji Tianyue. Has the Sky Cloud realm been peaceful all these years? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. Yes. Ever since you guys entered the Divine Kingdom, the Sky Cloud realm has been peaceful. However, no one dares to let down their guard and has been working hard to cultivate. The Feather Emperor smiled. What about Longzuan? She hasn't done anything these years. Qin Feiyong asked. No. Maybe she is afraid of our strength. The blood ancestor said with a smile. Afraid of your strength? Qin Feiyong was stunned and said with a bitter smile, Old ancestor, don't underestimate Longzuan. She might have already grasped the will of the heavens. It's just that you guys don't know about it. What? The blood ancestor's face changed. Don't forget whose woman she is. I am sure that she definitely has enough ultimate profound inheritance in her hands to let her grasp the will of the heavens, Qin Feiyong said. The Feather Emperor and the blood ancestor looked at each other and their hearts sank. Indeed. As Ice Dragon's woman, how could Longzuan be willing to be ordinary? She was really careless. I think that she didn't run out to harm the Sky Cloud realm all these years. It should be because before she left, Long Chan told her something. Anyway, you guys must not ignore this woman, Qin Feiyong reminded. Got it. The Feather Emperor and the other two nodded. Okay, I'll go take a look. Qin Feiyong got up and smiled. Where are you going? The Feather Emperor was suspicious. Just take a look. In addition, don't leak out the matter of us coming back, so as not to cause unnecessary chaos. After Qin Feiyong said, he looked at Lin Yi and asked, do you want to go together? Okay. Lin Yi nodded obediently. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly, changed his appearance a little, opened a space-time passage and led Lin Yi away. This brat is really the lucky star of our sky cloud realm. The blood ancestor chuckled. The little rabbit looked at the blood ancestor playfully and said, "You didn't say this before. You used to say that he is a jinx. Wherever he goes, disaster follows. Are you a professional teardown?" The blood ancestor glared at the little rabbit fiercely. The feather emperor looked at the two helplessly and said, Okay, stop arguing. Let's quickly discuss how to distribute these 6,500 supreme law ultimate inheritance. Looking at the interspatial rings on the table, his heart was a little heavy. Qin Feiyong came back in advance to make these arrangements, which was enough to show that the situation in the Divine Kingdom was not optimistic. But since Qin Feiyong didn't say anything, he couldn't do anything. Moreover, even if he told him, he couldn't help. He heard about it. The blood ancestor and the little rabbit stopped arguing, lowered their heads and pondered. In front of serious business, they couldn't play around. Let's do it this way. 4 people like Elder Hua, Chu Yun, Alliance Master, Deputy Alliance Master, He Zhongqian, and the Sky Palace Master, we will give them 8 inheritances, the blood ancestor said. I think it's okay because these people are the people that third brother trusts the most. The little rabbit nodded. There is one more person. This person is Hua Wenchang, Hua Wu's father. Back then, he publicly scolded Feng Ho for Hua Wu and left the Feng people. He is also a man with a true temperament. The Feather Emperor said. There was a trace of admiration in his words for Hua Wenchang. This person is indeed good. He clearly distinguishes between kindness and hatred. The blood ancestor and the little rabbit nodded. Of course, there is also Xiang and little Azura. These years they have been working hard for the Sky Cloud realm. We have to take special care of them. The Feather Emperor looked at Yun Xiang next to him and smiled. Yun Xiang laughed dryly. The blood ancestor suddenly seemed to think of something. He looked at the Feather Emperor and the little rabbit and said, Don't forget, there is a group of people that we have to take special care of. Who? The Feather Emperor and the little rabbit were suspicious. The blood demon race. The blood ancestor said word by word. The Feather Emperor and the little rabbit looked at each other, and couldn't help but look in the direction of the Een demon land. The blood demon race indeed needed to be taken care of, because back then the blood demon race had sacrificed too much. It could be said that, whether it was the Sky Cloud realm, the ancient world, Great Qin, or the Forgotten Continent, they all owed the blood demon race a favor. Cloud Sea City. A man and a woman entered the city. Looking at the bustling streets, there was a smile on their faces. You have been in the Sky Cloud realm for so many years, but you haven't come to the Eastern Continent to take a look, right? The young man asked with a smile. The two were Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi. No, I have always been on Sky Cloud Island. Lin Yi shook her head. Qin Feiyong said with dissatisfaction, This big brother is too much. It's not wrong to cultivate hard, but sometimes he should let you out to get some fresh air. He is also doing it for my own good. Lin Yi smiled. Forget it, let's not talk about him. It's rare to have time. I will take you around. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly and said, Okay. Lin Yi nodded like a good girl. She enjoyed Qin Feiyong's care for her. On the street there was a lot of traffic. Qin Feiyong kept passing by the pedestrians on the street. However, from beginning to end, no one realized that the man who passed by them was the patron saint of their Sky Cloud realm. Lin Yi pointed to a place not far away and said, Brother Feiyong, there is a jewelry store there. Shall we go in and take a look? Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. Girls usually had a special fondness for all kinds of beautiful jewelry. The two entered the store. There were many women inside. There were young women in their 20s and noble women. They were all looking for jewelry that they liked. The jewelry in the store was also dazzling and exquisite. The store was very large, and the decoration was also very high-end. Obviously, the people who came in and out of the store were either rich or noble. Young master, young miss, hello. What kind of style do you two like? I can introduce it to you too. A young woman greeted them. She was a staff member here. She thought that Qin Feiyong was a couple. No need, we will see it ourselves. Lin Yi smiled politely. Okay. The woman was also quite sensible. She silently retreated to the back and followed Qin Feiyong. Suddenly Lin Yi saw a good hairpin. She walked up and looked down at it. This hairpin was snow white with a crystal luster. The top was inlaid with a delicate lotus flower, giving an elegant and noble aura. Do you like it? I will give it to you. Qin Feiyong smiled. I like it very much. Linny nodded. The staff member behind her heard the words and immediately walked into the counter. She took out the hairpin and handed it to Qin Feiyong. She smiled and said, Young master, you might as well put it on for young Mississippi. Qin Feiyong smiled, took the hairpin, and slowly inserted it into Linny's hair. There was a saying that clothes make the man, and saddle make the horse. But now this sentence was the complete opposite. This hairpin was now even more distinctive because it was worn on Linny's head. It looks good. Even the staff member couldn't help but marvel. Because no one knew her, Linny did not change her appearance. Whether it was her appearance or her temperament, they could be called stunning. Qin Feiyong looked at it for a while, looked at the staff member and smiled. Pay the bill directly. Okay. The staff member nodded. He didn't even ask about the price first. It seemed that in order to win the beauty's heart, he would pay a lot. However, at this moment hand appeared, grabbed the hairpin on Linny's head, and pulled it out. And Linny was taken aback. She turned her head and looked suspiciously. She saw a 17 or 18-year-old young man in purple clothes, holding the hairpin and looking back and forth. This situation made Linny frown immediately. Chapter 43:27. Qin Feiyong, who was about to pay the bill, inadvertently noticed this scene. He couldn't help but turn to look at the purple-clothed young man. What does this mean? Snatch it directly from our hands? Young Master Shen? The staff member turned his head and looked. There was a trace of surprise on his face. He quickly walked over and smiled flatteringly. Young Master Wang, I didn't expect you to come. This so-called young Master Wang ignored the woman's flattery, let alone Qin Feiyong and Linny. His attitude seemed to treat them as air. Then he handed the jade hairpin to the woman and said faintly, I want this jade hairpin. Wrap it up for me. Wrap it up nicely. I want to give it to someone. Ah, the woman was taken aback. She looked at young Master Wang with some embarrassment and said, Young Master Wang, someone has already taken a fancy to this jade hairpin. Who? Young Master Wang raised his eyebrows. You took it from my head. You still don't know who it is? Linny frowned. Young Master Wang asked faintly, Did you pay the bill? No. Linny shook her head. You didn't pay the bill. Is this yours? Young Master Wang sneered and looked at the woman. Hurry up. Don't waste my time. The woman was in a dilemma. Qin Feiyong looked at the arrogant young master and smiled. Little brother, we did take a fancy to this jade hairpin first. If you like it, let the shop prepare another one for you. When the woman heard this, she quickly looked at Qin Feiyong and explained, Young master, the accessories in our shop are unique. Unique? Qin Feiyong was taken aback. Yes. There is only one piece of each accessory. This is to improve the value and uniqueness of the accessory. This is meaningful. The woman nodded. Turns out to be like this. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. Your boss is really good at doing business. The price of a unique item can naturally be much higher. Ha, the woman laughed dryly. Get lost if you can't afford it. Young Master Wang glanced at Qin Feiyong contemptuously. And Qin Feiyong stared blankly at this young man. Shouldn't there be a first-come, first-served rule when it came to buying things? Not only did he run out halfway to snatch it from them, he even spoke rudely. Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, the woman hurriedly looked at young Master Wang and said, Why don't you choose something else? Our shop also has many good accessories. No. I'll take this one. The purple-clad young man shook his head. But the woman was a little helpless. She turned her head and looked at Qin Feiyong and Linny for help. She asked, Why don't you two pick another one? When Linny heard this, she looked at Yuzan and frowned. I'm begging you. We can't afford to offend this person. The woman whispered. Can't afford to offend him? Qin Feiyong was stunned. In the Sky Cloud realm, was there anyone that Qin Feiyong could not afford to offend? This made him a little curious. This person is Theta Wang Chuan. He is a core disciple of the Demon Palace. It is said that he has entered the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure before, and obtained 2 law miniatures. His future is limitless. The woman explained. It turns out that he is a core disciple of the demon palace. No wonder he is so arrogant. The commotion here had already alarmed the other guests. They were all gathered not far away. When they heard the woman's words, they couldn't help but shrink their pupils. They looked at Theta Wang Chuan again with fear in their eyes. At the same time, Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi looked at each other with a trace of surprise. What surprised them was not that Theta Wang Chuan was a core disciple of the demon palace, but that this person had entered the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure and obtained 2 law miniatures. As the creator of the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure, Qin Feiyong certainly knew the situation of the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure. To obtain 2 law miniatures, it really required a lot of luck. Theta Wang Chuan stared at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi and said impatiently, "Since you already know my identity, you'd better be sensible. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences later." Ugh! These words stunned Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi for a long time. Bear the consequences later? They didn't expect that there would be someone in the Heavenly Cloud realm who dared to say such words to them. Especially Qin Feiyong. Not only was he the creator of the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure, but he was also the honorary hall master of the Demon Palace. The law miniatures of the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure were also his. Now, such a small core disciple dared to show off in front of him. It was really interesting. The woman looked at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi and asked, "Young master, young lady," you see, her eyes were full of pleading. Qin Feiyong was about to speak, but Lin Yi waved her hand and said, "Forget it. It's just a jade hairpin. There is no need to bother with him." Qin Feiyong was taken aback and looked at Lin Yi puzzledly. Lin Yi secretly smiled and said, "With your identity and status, if you bother with a disciple, others may say that you are narrow-minded." "Okay." Qin Feiyong nodded. "Look at what a considerate girl she is. I wonder who will have the blessing to marry this girl in the future. You are sensible. Wrap it up for me." Theta Wang Chuan glanced coldly at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi, then looked at the woman and said, "Okay." The woman nodded and smiled apologetically at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi. Then she led Theta Wang Chuan to the counter. "Demon Palace. It's getting worse and worse now." "Yeah," the customers around whispered. Qin Feiyong frowned slightly when he heard these words. What does this mean? Why is the Demon Palace getting worse and worse? "Brother, you are very wise. This is a disciple of the Demon Palace. We ordinary people can't afford to offend him." A black-clothed young man walked over, patted Qin Feiyong on the shoulder, and left the shop. Qin Feiyong looked at the back of the black-clothed young man and frowned. What happened to the Demon Palace these years? Why does it seem that there are complaints everywhere?" "I don't know. I have never been to the Eastern continent." Lin Yi shook her head. "Did Big Brother tell you about the situation of the Demon Palace?" Qin Feiyong asked. "No. He has always asked me to cultivate in seclusion peacefully and ignore the outside world," Lin Yi said. "It's strange," Qin Feiyong murmured, looked at Lin Yi and smiled. "Then let's go and see other accessories." "No need. I'm not in the mood." Lin Yi shook her head. "Okay." Qin Feiyong nodded helplessly and led Lin Yi out of the shop. But when he walked out of the door, he turned to look at Theta Wang Chuan, who was paying the bill. He couldn't help but frown. After a while, on the street, Lin Yi tilted her head, looked at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Brother Feiyong, what are you thinking about? You look absent-minded after coming out of the accessory shop." "Ah." Qin Feiyong came back to his senses, looked at Lin Yi, and apologized. "Sorry, I was thinking about something." "If there's anything, you can go and solve it," Lin Yi said. "It's nothing. It's just a bit strange. Didn't the Demon Palace have a good reputation in the Eastern continent before? Why is it so bad now?" Qin Feiyong frowned. "Maybe people like Theta Wang Chuan are just a few." Lin Yi thought for a while and said, "I hope so." Qin Feiyong smiled, looked up and locked his eyes on the street ahead. He smiled and said, "I didn't expect to come here unknowingly. Since we are all here, let's go and have a seat." Lin Yi looked up suspiciously and saw a magnificent restaurant standing on the street, a few hundred meters away. "Tianyue Restaurant. Young master, miss, please come in." Under the reception of the waiter, Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi entered the restaurant. "Are there any private rooms upstairs?" Lin Yi asked. "Sorry, there are no more," the waiter said apologetically. "No more. What time is it now? Linny looked back at the sky outside. There are still a few hours before dinner time. Why are there no more? The business of Tianyue restaurant should be better. Looking at Lin Yi's reaction, the waiter still maintained a polite smile, but he despised her in his heart. Don't you know where this is? This is Tianyue restaurant, the largest restaurant in the Sky Cloud realm. If you want a private room, you have to book at least 1 day in advance. Moreover, this is the headquarters of Tianyue restaurant. They are dressed well, and their temperament is okay. Why do they look like two bumpkins? You too, if you continue to hesitate, you won't even have a seat in the hall. The waiter reminded them. Lin Yi quickly looked at the hall. Sure enough, there was only one empty table left. Let's have a seat in the hall. Qin Feiyong looked at Lin Yi and said with a smile, but don't you like quiet? Lin Yi frowned. It's okay. It just so happens that I want to inquire about the situation of Demon Palace. Qin Feiyong secretly said. A place like the hall where crooks mixed with honest folk was the best place to inquire about information. Okay. Lin Yi nodded, pointed to the empty table, and said to the waiter, let's have a seat there. Okay. The waiter yelled and took Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi to the table. After the two sat down, the waiter smiled and said, what do you two need? I'll leave it to you. Qin Feiyong looked at Lin Yi and smiled. Lin Yi thought for a while and looked at the waiter with a smile. Anything is fine. Okay. The waiter nodded, turned around and left quickly. These two are really interesting. How can they come to a restaurant so casually? It seems that they are really from the countryside. They haven't seen much of the world and are frightened. There is still half a year before the Demon Palace assessment begins. Brother, do you want to give it a try? In the hall, the sound of discussion was incessant. It was very noisy. But this sentence was clearly captured by Qin Feiyong. His heart moved immediately. He turned his head to look at the next table and saw two young men, one in black and one in white, sitting opposite each other. The person who asked was the young man in black on the left. Both of their cultivation bases were not high. They were only in the 9th heaven realm. They were quite ordinary, but they were not old. Demon Palace assessment. The young man in white held a wine glass, pondered for a while, shook his head and sighed, I'm not going. Not going. The young man in black was taken aback. He put down the wine glass that was already at his mouth and said suspiciously, didn't you always say that you want to enter the Demon Palace? That was before. As for now, I'm going to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance in the Western Continent. The young man in white shook his head. When talking about the Demon Palace, Qin Feiyong clearly caught a trace of disgust in the eyes of the young man in white. Chapter 43-28. What the hell is going on? Qin Feiyong frowned. His feelings for Demon Palace were obvious to all, so he didn't want Demon Palace to become like this. The two young men spoke again. That's true. Rogue Cultivator Alliance is much better than Demon Palace now. To be honest, we should have supported Rogue Cultivator Alliance to stay in the Eastern Continent and let Demon Palace go to the Western Continent. The black-clothed young man shook his head and said, this kind of thing isn't something small people like you and me can decide. Moreover, it was Qin Feiyong's idea to move Rogue Cultivator Alliance to the Western Continent back then. The white-clothed young man said. Speaking of Qin Feiyong, I really admire him. Back then he, Frenzy, Golden-Winged Wolf King, Longqin, Longchan, Yunziang, Masked Shura and Li Feng. Even when facing the sky prides of the Divine Kingdom, they didn't change their expressions. If it weren't for these people, our Sky Cloud realm would have been finished long ago. The black-clothed young man's eyes were full of admiration. Yeah, we have to thank them. Otherwise, how can we live in peace now? In fact, it's reasonable to say that we should all enter Demon Palace. After all, Qin Feiyong and the others were once disciples of Demon Palace, but now, the white-clothed young man looked quite distressed, but he didn't finish his words. He waved his hand and said, forget it. Let's not talk about these things, lest the people of Demon Palace hear it and cause a disaster. The black-clothed young man nodded, raised his wine glass and smiled, come let's drink. I will go to the Western Continent with you tomorrow. Even if I can't pass the assessment and become a disciple of Rogue Cultivator Alliance, it's worth it as long as I can see the glory of Rogue Cultivator Alliance. With brother accompanying me, I won't be lonely along the way. The white-clothed young man couldn't help but chuckle. At this time, the waiter came over with a few dishes and a pot of wine. Young master, miss, the dishes are here. If you need anything later, just tell me. After putting down the dishes, the waiter left in a hurry. Why did he bring a pot of wine? Lin Yi looked at the wine pot in astonishment. Didn't you say anything was fine? You eat first. I'll go gather some information. Qin Feiyong smiled. Twisting the wine pot, he stood up and walked to the table beside him. Looking at the two youths, he smiled and said, brothers, can I have a chat with you? Ah. The two of them looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. Don't worry, I definitely won't drink your wine. Qin Feiyong said half-jokingly. As soon as he said this, the two of them laughed involuntarily. The young man in white pointed at the empty stool beside him and said with a smile, brother, you're quite humorous. Have a seat. Thank you. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. He sat in front of the table and poured wine for the two of them. Wait a moment. One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Brother, why don't you tell us why you're here? If it weren't for your wine, we wouldn't dare to drink it. The young man in white stopped Qin Feiyong and laughed. I just want to gather some information. Qin Feiyong gently pushed the young man in white's hand away and filled the wine cups in front of the two of them. Gather some information? The two youths looked at each other, the suspicion in their eyes growing stronger. Qin Feiyong also poured a cup for himself and said with a smile, let me toast the two of you first. After saying that, he raised his head and drank it in one gulp. The wine of Heavenly Joy House wasn't too bad. After all, it was the largest restaurant in the Sky Cloud realm. However, Qin Feiyong found it really unpalatable when he drank it. The two of them looked at Qin Feiyong in bewilderment. Then they also drank the wine in their cups. Qin Feiyong filled their cups again before getting to the main topic. He smiled and said, I heard the two of you talking about the Demon Palace just now. It seems like you have a big prejudice against the Demon Palace? Hearing this, the two of them immediately became vigilant. Don't worry. I'm not a disciple of the Demon Palace. Previously, I had a small conflict with a core disciple of the Demon Palace in an accessory store. Qin Feiyong quickly comforted them. What? You had a conflict with a core disciple of the Demon Palace? The two of them jumped in fright. Yes. My sister took a fancy to a jade hairpin. In the end, that disciple of the Demon Palace ran in and directly snatched it from my sister's head. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. So that's how it is. The black-clothed youth nodded in understanding and asked, then you didn't mess with him, right? The white-clothed youth looked at the black-clothed youth and said with a smile, brother, if he did, would he still be sitting here and drinking with us? The black-clothed youth was stunned and nodded. That's true. Not to mention a core disciple of the Demon Palace, even an outer sect disciple wouldn't have a good ending if they provoked him. After saying that, he looked at Qin Feiyong and said, brother, you should really go and burn incense. You managed to survive. Is it that exaggerated? Qin Feiyong was shocked and said suspiciously, when I was in the village, I heard that the Demon Palace was pretty good. The two of them looked at each other and then at Qin Feiyong. They shook their heads and said, so you siblings came from the countryside. No wonder you're so naive. What do you mean? Qin Feiyong was puzzled. The white-clothed youth glanced at the surrounding guests and said in a low voice, brother, to tell you the truth, the Demon Palace was indeed not bad in the past. Not only were they very friendly to the people of the Eastern continent, but they also took care of them very well. But now it's different. Different? Qin Feiyong frowned. Yes. It's not an exaggeration to say that the current Demon Palace is a gathering place for a bunch of mobs, the white-clothed youth said in disgust. Is that really the case? We siblings are still preparing to participate in the Demon Palace's assessment, because our village is proud of entering the Demon Palace. Qin Feiyong said. You still want to participate in the assessment? The white-clothed youth glanced at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi and whispered, brother, listen to my advice. Don't go. If you really want to stand out, you might as well go to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Even if you don't go to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, it's better to go to the Heavenly Temple and Divine Temple than to enter the Demon Palace. Qin Feiyong frowned and asked, then, can you explain the reason in detail? It's fate that we met. All right. We'll tell you in detail. The demon palace was indeed good in the past. We all wanted to enter. But in recent years, the demon palace seemed to have inflated. They have become selfish, indifferent, and ruthless. Especially the disciples below. Each of them is like a playboy. They are arrogant and domineering outside all day long. The white-clothed youth said in a low voice. So that's what happened. Qin Feiyong suddenly realized and asked, are there many such disciples? Yes. Almost half of them. Being arrogant and domineering is still light. Some even bully people outside. The white-clothed youth shook his head. So overboard. Then the upper echelons of the demon palace don't do anything about it? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Do something about it? Who will do something about it? Can ordinary people like us meet the upper echelons of the demon palace? I remember that last year there was a demon palace disciple in a small town. Someone seemed to have offended him. In the end, this disciple killed that person's family because of a disagreement. This person ran to the demon palace to seek justice. In the end, before he could enter the demon palace, he was stopped by the demon palace's deacon elder. The white-clothed youth shook his head. And then? Qin Feiyong asked. Then not only did the deacon elder not seek justice for him, he even silenced him. Brother, tell me now. Is such a demon palace still worth us risking our lives to enter? The white-clothed youth said. Qin Feiyong clenched his fists and said in a deep voice, where do they find the capital to be so arrogant? Capital? Is there even a need to say it? Their capital is Qin Feiyong, Madman Mo, and Golden-Winged Wolf King. The black-clothed youth sighed. What do you mean? Qin Feiyong frowned. How could this matter have anything to do with them? Qin Feiyong, Madman Mo, and Golden-Winged Wolf King were all disciples of the demon palace. In the past, the demon palace helped these three the most. It is also because of this that after these three rose to power, they took special care of the demon palace and even treated the demon palace as their home. In the beginning it was still fine because these three were there. The disciples of the demon palace were very low-key. But good times didn't last. Not long after, these three went to the divine kingdom. With their departure, the demon palace seemed to have lost their deterrence. The disciples of the demon palace gradually became arrogant and looked down on everyone. In the end, this situation became worse and worse. Now they have reached a state of lawlessness. Most importantly, no one dares to interfere because they are afraid of offending Qin Feiyong and the other two. Even the Kirans, Feng people, and dragons pretended not to see the disciples of the demon palace bullying others. The white-clothed youth sighed. Qin Feiyong said, so as time passed, they became more and more unscrupulous. That's right. Now our eastern continent is in a mess because of these people. I just can't figure it out. They are all overlords and are related to Qin Feiyong and the other two. Why are the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, the Heavenly Palace, and the Divine Palace so self-disciplined? Brother, look, I am a native of the eastern continent. Now, I have to go to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance of the western continent. Don't you think it's ridiculous? The white-clothed youth was heartbroken and his face was full of disappointment. Those big shots of the demon palace don't care about these things? Qin Feiyong asked. Them? For so many years I have never seen them show their faces. I don't even know where they are hiding and living a leisurely life. Moreover, big shots like them don't care about the life and death of small fries like us. The two shook their heads. Qin Feiyong frowned. The demon palace had become like this. Elder Hua, Chu Yun and the hall master didn't show up. What were they trying to do? Brother, why don't we do this? We are going to the western continent tomorrow. You and your sister can come with us. We can take care of each other at that time. The white-clothed youth looked at Qin Feiyong and invited him in a friendly manner. Thank you, brother. I will discuss it with my sister later. Qin Feiyong smiled. Okay. The white-clothed youth nodded. Then I will go first. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he left the wine pot and stood up. You forgot the wine. The black-clothed youth said quickly. I will give it to you. Qin Feiyong smiled, turned around, walked to Linny and sat down. Chapter 43-29. How is the investigation going? Linny asked with a smile. Sigh. I didn't expect that our care of Demon Palace would become the capital for these Demon Palace disciples to be arrogant. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. In this world aren't most people like this? Lin Yi smiled. I'm quite disappointed. But I'm puzzled. Why didn't Elder Hua and the others come out to take care of it? Why did they allow the disciples to continue to make trouble? Qin Feiyong frowned. Lin Yi said, I heard from Little Rabbit about this. Elder Hua and the others seem to be in close cultivation. Close cultivation? Qin Feiyong was taken aback. Didn't you give them the epitome of the law? After you left the Sky Cloud realm, Elder Hua and the Alliance Master basically went into close cultivation. Lin Yi smiled. Qin Feiyong said, in other words, it is the people below who are managing Demon Palace now? I guess so. Lin Yi nodded. Elder Hua and the others really trusted the wrong person. I'm very curious now. Who is managing Demon Palace now and can manage it to this extent? Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered with a cold light. Then let's go to Demon Palace to take a look? Lin Yi asked. Qin Feiyong glanced at the top floor and didn't sense Yueqing's aura. It was meaningless to continue to stay here. They might as well go to Demon Palace to take a look. For the future of Demon Palace this time, it might be necessary to have a bloodbath. However, just as the two were about to get up and pay the bill, a young man in purple strode in. Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi were taken aback. Isn't this person Theta Wangchuan who was arrogant and domineering in the accessory store? What a coincidence, he also came to Tianyue building. Greetings, young Master Wang. When the shop assistant saw Theta Wangchuan, his pupils shrank slightly, and he hurriedly greeted him. It was obvious. Theta Wangchuan was also a regular here. Is there a private room upstairs? Theta Wangchuan asked. Sorry, it's full. The shop assistant smiled flatteringly. Full. Hearing this, Theta Wangchuan couldn't help but frown. He scanned the hall and muttered, perhaps the effect would be better if we were in the hall. What did you say? The waiter looked at him suspiciously. It's nothing. Theta Wangchuan shook her head and asked, are there any seats left in the hall? It's best if it's near the center. There's nothing in the hall either. The remaining table from before is already occupied by those two. The shop assistant pointed at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi and looked at Theta Wangchuan with a smile. Theta Wangchuan followed her gaze, and a playful look appeared in his eyes. It was truly a small world for enemies to meet again. Immediately, he pointed at Qin Feiyong and Zhang Wuji and said, I want that table. That's not good. They haven't finished eating yet. The shop assistant looked at Theta Wangchuan awkwardly. You two blind idiots, why are you still eating so much? Tell them to scram immediately. Theta Wangchuan said arrogantly. This? The shop assistant frowned. What's wrong? As a core disciple of Devil Hall, my words don't work? Theta Wangchuan glared at the shop assistant. No, don't worry. I'll discuss with them. The shop assistant smiled flatteringly and immediately ran toward Qin Feiyong and Zhang Wuji. He sighed in his heart. If only the two building masters were here. The two building masters were close friends with Qin Feiyong, Golden Wing Wolf King, and Madman Mo. No matter how arrogant Theta Wangchuan was, he didn't dare to be arrogant in front of the two building masters. Unfortunately, the two building masters were not here at the moment. As a shop assistant, he didn't dare to offend the core disciples of Devil Hall. Both the young man in white and the young man in black looked at this scene and secretly asked Qin Feiyong with a voice transmission, brother, is he the Theta Wangchuan you just mentioned? Qin Feiyong nodded. Then you siblings are really unlucky to meet him again in a blink of an eye. Listen to your brother. Quickly pay the bill and leave or come to sit with us. Don't provoke him again. The two advised with a voice transmission. Thank you. Let me check the situation first. Qin Feiyong thanked them and looked at the shop assistant who ran toward him. The shop assistant looked at Qin Feiyong and Zhang Wuji and said with an apologetic face, both of you heard it too. I'm really sorry. As an apology, we will waive all your expenses today. Lin Yi was about to get up. She wasn't being patient. She just didn't want to be affected by someone like Theta Wangchuan. Such a person was just a clown in front of her. There was nothing to be angry about. But at this time, Qin Feiyong grabbed Lin Yi and looked at the shop assistant with a smile, Do we look like people who lack money? This. The shop assistant looked stiff. He thought that as long as he reasoned with them and moved them emotionally, coupled with Theta Wangchuan's identity, he would definitely be able to convince them. But he didn't expect that they would embarrass him instead. Two bumpkins from the countryside. What's there to be arrogant about? The shop assistant suppressed the anger in his heart and whispered, "Both of you may not know his identity. His name is Theta Wangchuan. He is a core disciple of the Demon Palace. Even I dare not offend him." "You?" Qin Feiyong looked at the shop assistant and said faintly, "Of course, you don't dare to offend him because you are just a little shop assistant. But although you are just a shop assistant, your performance is really disappointing." "What do you mean?" The shop assistant was furious. How dare he humiliate him? The other guests around also looked at Qin Feiyong in astonishment. This person must have eaten a leopard's guts. How dare he be so arrogant in the face of a core disciple of the Demon Palace? What I mean is, us siblings are guests. Now we are sitting here eating. As a shop assistant here, not only did you not stand up to protect our rights, but you also asked us to leave in advance because you are afraid of the Demon Palace's disciples. I would like to ask, who is the one who asked you to do business? Yuaqing or Yimiao? Qin Feiyong's face was quite ugly. How long has it been since they left the Sky Cloud realm? Not only have the Demon Palace's disciples become so rampant, but even the shop assistant of the Tianyue restaurant has become so snobbish. It seems that a good reorganization is needed. The shop assistant's face changed and shouted, "How dare you call the two tower masters by their names? Indeed he is bold." The two tower masters of the Tianyue restaurant are both Qin Feiyong's women. Even the tycoons of major forces have to be polite to them. The people around whispered. When Lin Yi heard these discussions, she chuckled secretly, "Brother Feiyong, when did these two building masters become your women?" Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched and said helplessly, "Don't you know? The most terrible thing in this world is gossip." There had been such rumors in the Sky Cloud realm a long time ago. They said that there was an ambiguous relationship between him and Yuaqing. But there was no such thing. It was just that he was too lazy to explain, so he didn't come forward to clarify. But he didn't expect that after leaving the Sky Cloud realm for so many years, these rumors were still there. Fortunately, the people around him knew him better. He was not a promiscuous person. Otherwise, he couldn't explain it clearly even if he had 100 mouths. "Get out of here immediately. Don't ever step into my Tianyue restaurant again." The shop assistant pointed to the door and looked at Qin Feiyong angrily. The young man in white and the young man in black at the next table looked at each other and couldn't help but feel powerless. They wanted to help, but they didn't dare. Whether it was the Demon Palace's disciples or the Tianyue restaurant, they couldn't afford to offend them. "Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, you might not have a chance later." The young man in white transmitted his voice. "Brother, thank you for your concern. Today, I'm really going to go against them. I want to see how awe-inspiring the Demon Palace's disciples and the shop assistant of the Tianyue restaurant are." Qin Feiyong smiled inwardly. "Aren't you courting death? Even if you don't think for yourself, think for your sister. She's a girl. How can she withstand such torment?" The two of them tried their best to persuade him. It was obvious that they were kind-hearted. Moreover, they had a sense of justice when they saw the pain and hatred they felt for the Demon Palace. Seeing that Qin Feiyong and the young man in black didn't move, the shop assistant roared angrily, "Didn't you hear me tell you to get out? Do you want me to chase you out? You're just a mere shop assistant. Yet you're so overbearing, telling customers to get out so easily. I'm really curious how Yuaqing and Yimiao usually teach you." Qin Feiyong looked at the shop assistant with a cold light flashing in his eyes. "Just a shop assistant?" The shop assistant flew into a rage out of humiliation and smirked. "Even if I'm just a shop assistant, I'm still better than a bumpkin like you. Why are you talking so much nonsense with him?" Theta Wangchuan, who was standing behind, finally lost his patience. He strode over and stared at Qin Feiyong and the young man in black. "I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to get out or not? Today we're really not going to leave." Lin Yi was also angry. She had already been merciful in the jewelry store before, but she didn't expect that they would come to provoke her. And it was a deliberate provocation. "Good, very good." Theta Wangchuan smirked. and a murderous aura permeated. Qin Feiyong looked at Theta Wang Chuan in front of him and couldn't help but feel sad in his heart. Is this the talent he cultivated with countless resources to create the Tianyun divine treasure? It's ridiculous. Theta Wang Chuan, what are you looking for me for? The atmosphere in the hall became more and more solemn. Suddenly, a crisp voice sounded, and Qin Feiyong was taken aback. This voice seems a bit familiar. He raised his head and looked outside suspiciously. He saw a young woman in a long white dress walking quickly into the restaurant. It's her. Looking at the woman who came in and Theta Wang Chuan, Qin Feiyong was surprised. Brother Feiyong, do you know her? Lin Yi was suspicious. Yes. Her name is Shen Xiaojia. I met her in the Shen family village when I comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. When I first saw her, she was just a little girl. I just didn't expect that she would be with someone like Theta Wang Chuan now. Qin Feiyong frowned. Shen Xiaojia was a lively and lovely girl in his impression. She didn't hate evil, but she could at least distinguish what was good and evil. It stood to reason that she should hate people like Theta Wang Chuan. It turns out that she is from the Shen family village. Lin Yi suddenly realized. Although she had been in seclusion, she still knew about the situation in the Shen family village. Because the battle between Qin Feiyong and others and the king broke out in the Shen family village. At that time, Qin Feiyong and others desperately protected the Shen family village, making the Shen family village, an obscure village, the focus of the Tianyun realm. The Shen family village had also made great strides since then. The juniors of the Shen family village had basically joined the Demon Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Chapter 4330, including Shen Xiaojia. And, back then, Qin Feiyong broke out of his cocoon and became a butterfly in the Shen family village. He comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Everyone in the village was influenced by the law of life and death. In short, it was a rebirth. Could be said that, whether it was an old man like Shen Mulin or a junior like Shen Xiaojia, they had all become cultivation geniuses. In addition, back then Qin Feiyong had personally taught juniors like Shen Xiaojia. Although Qin Feiyong's strength back then wasn't as strong as it was now, in the Sky Cloud realm, he could be considered the number one person. To put it bluntly, even a person with mediocre talent could become a first-rate genius under his guidance. So, now, the juniors of the Shen family village had already emerged. Whether it was in the Demon Palace or the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, they had a certain prestige. Of course, the biggest reason was Qin Feiyong. Because everyone knew that the Shen family village had helped Qin Feiyong. Xiaojia. At the same time, seeing Shen Xiaojia coming, Theta Wang Chuan's eyes lit up and quickly greeted her. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Hurry up, why are you looking for me? Shen Xiaojia spoke with a cold tone. Don't worry. Well, wait for me for a while. Theta Wang Chuan comforted and ran to Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi again, whispering, for the last time, get out of here immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Lin Yi frowned. You still want to take advantage of me? Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed slightly. He turned to look at the black shirt youth and the white shirt youth and smiled. Two brothers, why don't we sit here first? Sure. I just asked you and your sister to come over, but you are so stubborn. The two nodded. They were very loyal. Thank you. Qin Feiyong thanked them and gave Lin Yi a wink. Lin Yi was a little puzzled, but she was still very obedient. Immediately, the two carried the dishes on the table and walked to the table of the two young men and sat down. Brother Sanchuan, my apologies. This little brother of mine just came from the countryside and doesn't know the rules. If he offends you, please be magnanimous and don't hold it against him. The two young men were worried that Theta Wang Chuan would take revenge on Qin Feiyong. So they stood up and bowed, pleading on Qin Feiyong's behalf. Lin Yi looked at the two in surprise. Seriously, these two people were really not bad. At this moment, the hall was full of guests, but among so many people who stood out to help Qin Feiyong, they were all minding their own business, afraid of offending Theta Wang Chuan. However, these two young men were completely unrelated to them. They had only drunk 2 cups of wine with them before. Yet now they actually stood up to help them without the slightest hesitation. He even apologized to Theta Wang Chuan on behalf of Qin Feiyong. If they knew Qin Feiyang's identity, they would probably be putting on an act. But at this moment, no one here knew Qin Feiyang's identity. They didn't know Qin Feiyang's identity, but they still came to help them enthusiastically. This showed that these two young men were warm-hearted and good people. Wang Sanchuan looked at the two young men and said indifferently, "Seeing that your attitude is not bad, I won't bicker with them this time. But in the future, remember to remind them that when they walk outside, it's best to be observant." Yes. Sorry. The two young men put their palms together and bowed again and again. Theta Wang Chuan ignored them and turned to look at the waiter. "Clean it up immediately." "Okay." The waiter nodded. Theta Wang Chuan ran to Shen Xiaojia again with a flattering expression on his face. "Thank you, brothers. However, aren't you afraid that Theta Wang Chuan will vent his anger on you for helping us?" Lin Yi glanced at Theta Wang Chuan's back, looked at the two young men, and asked in a low voice. "Yes, of course. But there is a good saying. Rely on your parents at home and rely on your friends outside. And I can't stand honest people being bullied the most." The young man in white shook his head. "Yes, especially this kind of dog that bullies others. If it weren't for the Demon Palace backing him up, what is he? However, we really have to be careful, lest we be targeted by him. We won't have a good life." The young man in black transmitted his voice. "Yes, we will leave later and go to the Western continent." The young man in white nodded. Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi looked at each other. They were more and more impressed with these two people. This is the kind of person that should be cultivated. It is a waste to give resources to someone like Theta Wang Chuan. Lin Yi looked at Theta Wang Chuan and Shen Xiaojia, who were already sitting at the table, and secretly wondered, "Brother Feiyang, what do you want to do?" "Don't worry." Qin Feiyang smiled secretly. While drinking with the two young men, he paid attention to Theta Wang Chuan and Shen Xiaojia. The waiter had already cleaned up the table, but Theta Wang Chuan still felt that it was not clean enough. He took out a handkerchief and wiped it carefully. Then he chatted with Shen Xiaojia. They talked about very common topics. For example, "How are you recently? Have you encountered any troubles?" "Wait. Soon." The waiter brought a few dishes that looked, smelled good. There was also a pot of superb wine. "I don't drink." Just when Theta Wang Chuan was about to pour wine for Shen Xiaojia removed the wineglass and shook her head. Theta Wang Chuan was taken aback and smiled flatteringly. "Then have some tea. The tea in Tianyue building is also very good." Shen Xiaojia looked at Theta Wang Chuan, frowned slightly, and asked, "Are you okay? If you have something to say, just say it. If not, I will go back to cultivate." Hearing these words, Shen Xiaojia looked at Theta Wang Chuan's eyes. She didn't seem to like him very much. "You don't have to be in a hurry to cultivate." Theta Wang Chuan smiled apologetically. Then he took out an exquisite gift box from the universe ring and handed it to Shen Xiaojia. Shen Xiaojia looked at the gift box suspiciously. Theta Wang Chuan smiled and said, "I have been running around for several days to prepare this for you. I hope you will like it." "I don't deserve it." Shen Xiaojia shook her head and did not open the gift box. Theta Wang Chuan's expression stiffened. He hurriedly said, "Xiaojia, aren't you treating me like an outsider? You see, we have known each other for several years. Even if you don't like me, we can still be close friends. Isn't it normal for friends to give each other a small gift?" Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi suddenly realized. It turned out that this Theta Wang Chuan was pursuing Shen Xiaojia. Lin Yi asked with a voice transmission, "Brother Feiyang, do you think that the hairpin we saw before is in that box?" "It should be. After all this time, it is for this girl." Qin Feiyang smiled secretly. It seems that this girl is quite popular with men. But after taking a closer look, the little girl back then was now slender and graceful. She did have some charm. Sigh. But the young man in white next to him suddenly sighed. "Brother, why are you sighing?" Qin Feiyang looked at the young man in white suspiciously. The young man in white secretly said, "Brother, you don't know. This woman named Shen Xiaojia is from the Shen family village." "Shen family village?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. In fact, the Shen family village used to be very inconspicuous. There weren't even a few decent powerhouses. But they were lucky to meet Qin Feiyang and other lords. The young man in white smiled enviously. "I don't know about this yet. Qin Feiyang shook his head. You just came from the countryside. It's normal that you don't know. It is said that when Qin Feiyang comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, he traveled around the world and finally stopped in front of a small village. This small village is the Shun family village. Later, Qin Feiyang also successfully comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death in the Shun family village, and became the first person in our sky cloud realm. Because of this, Qin Feiyang and the Shun family village formed a good relationship. It is also because of this relationship that all forces take good care of the people of the Shun family village, and several major forces in our sky cloud realm, Demon Palace, Heavenly Palace, Divine Palace, and Rogue Cultivator Alliance, which one has nothing to do with Qin Feiyang. So in these years, the Shun family has become a hidden wealthy family in the sky cloud realm in one fell swoop. The reason why it is called a hidden wealthy family is because the Shun family village did not take the opportunity to expand its scale. Just like before, they have been living in seclusion in the mountains and living a very low-key life. However, the younger generation of the Shun family village is basically in various forces now, and they all show extraordinary talent. It can be said that the transformation of the Shun family village is entirely because of Lord Qin Feiyang. But it is also because of the relationship between the Shun family village and Qin Feiyang that the young disciples of various forces can't help but have the idea of taking a shortcut. The young man in white sighed. Taking a shortcut? Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. Yes, just like this Shen Xiaojia. It is said that Lord Qin Feiyang watched her grow up. He even personally taught her cultivation. Think about it. If anyone can capture Shen Xiaojia's heart and marry her, isn't it equivalent to climbing the relationship with Qin Feiyang? The young man in white transmitted his voice. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he frowned slightly and said secretly, "Brother, do you mean that this Theta Wang Chuan doesn't really like Shen Xiaojia, but he wants to climb the backing of Qin Feiyang? Isn't it obvious?" Obviously. I heard that a few years ago there was a big family in the Western continent. In order to climb the social ladder with the Shun family village, the family master of this big family even sent his daughter to him. The young man in black secretly said. His eyes were full of contempt. There is such a thing? Qin Feiyang was stunned and frowned. What happened in the end? This person called Shandazhuang. Did he accept this patriarch's daughter? It seems that he didn't. It is said that this Shandazhuang is honest and straightforward. He is also a good person. Some people also say that he has the best relationship with Qin Feiyang. But I just don't know if it is true. The young man in black shook his head. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed an imperceptible smile. It seems that this kid didn't let me down. At least in terms of character there is no big problem. Qin Feiyang looked at Theta Wang Chuan again. He couldn't help but want to laugh. Such a person wants to climb the social ladder with me? He is thinking too much. Chapter 43-31. Theta Wang Chuan was still trying to curry favor. Shen Xiaojia looked at Theta Wang Chuan with a slight frown. Xiaojia, I know that you don't like me, but I don't care. As long as I can protect you at all times, I'm already very satisfied. Theta Wang Chuan said sincerely. And his voice wasn't soft either. It wasn't just the people in the hall. Even the people in the private rooms upstairs could hear him clearly. Isn't that senior brother Theta Wang Chuan's voice? Shen Xiaojia? Is senior brother confessing to Shen Xiaojia? 6 young men walked out from a private room on the 3rd floor. The 6 of them were dressed in luxurious clothes and had outstanding temperaments. The auras they exuded were also very strong. Moreover, each of them had a woman in heavy makeup in their arms. They were clearly here to have fun. It really is senior brother Wang. Looking at Theta Wang Chuan downstairs, the 6 of them didn't care what kind of situation they were in and laughed heartily. You guys are here too. Theta Wang Chuan looked up at the 6 and smiled. We just happen to be drinking here. Senior brother Wang, are you confessing to junior sister Shen? The 6 of them were curious. Don't talk nonsense. Theta Wang Chuan glared at them with a very righteous look. But as he spoke, he secretly gave the 6 of them a look. The 6 of them looked at each other and understood. Junior sister Shen, look at how infatuated senior brother Wang is with you. Why don't you accept him? That's right. Senior Brother Wang is such a good man. He will definitely treat you well for the rest of his life. And when the two of you stand together, you really look like a match made in heaven. If you don't believe me, you can ask the others." The 6 of them laughed. In this world, there was no lack of people who would blindly join in on the fun. As the 6 of them finished speaking, many people in the hall began to join in on the fun. In the end, they even roared that they should be together, be together. The white-clad youth glanced at the 6 people on the second floor and sighed. "Little brother, do you see that? These are the disciples of the demon royal halls. They are not working hard on their cultivation when they have such good resources. Instead, they all come to the tavern to seek pleasure." Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at the 6 people upstairs. They were indeed quite disappointing. What was the difference between these people and those hedonistic sons of rich parents who were idling about and abusing their power? Then he looked at Theta Wang Chuan. At this moment he was very pleased with himself. However, when he noticed that Qin Feiyong's group of 4 were sitting on the side in silence, he couldn't help but turn his head to stare at them, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Together, together. The white-clothed young man and the white-clothed man's expression changed, and they immediately shouted. At the same time, he also signaled Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi to shout together. "This is too childish." Lin Yi was speechless. "It is indeed childish. You want an outsider to help you confess to a woman? Don't try to show off if you don't have the ability." Qin Feiyong shook his head. As soon as these 2 sentences came out, the whole scene fell into dead silence. The white-clothed young man and the white-clothed man's expression also changed abruptly. They quickly said secretly, "Brother, what are you doing? Aren't you deliberately provoking him?" Sorry, we will leave now." The black-clothed young man got up and looked at Theta Wang Chuan, whose face was gloomy, and smiled apologetically. Then he put down a pile of divine crystals, pulled Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi, and ran outside. "Leave?" Theta Wang Chuan smiled coldly. He stepped in front of the 4 people, stared at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi, and said, "Make it clear who doesn't have the ability, and who is trying to show off? Isn't this obvious to all?" Qin Feiyong chuckled and asked, "Would you like me to say another sentence to you? Don't be a toad thinking about eating swan meat all day long. You don't have the strength." Damn it. Why are they still arguing with each other? Is he really not afraid of death? The guests around all looked at Qin Feiyong in astonishment. He actually scolded the core disciples of the demon palace as toads? The black-clothed young man and the white-clothed man were completely desperate. They had humiliated the other party like this. How could the other party still give them a way out? Yo, where did this little reptile come from? How dare he humiliate our demon palace's disciples recklessly? Accompanied by a strange cry, the 6 demon palace's disciples upstairs released the women in their arms and landed beside Theta Wang Chuan. The girls looked at Qin Feiyong with ridicule in their eyes. Especially the waiter from before. He had no intention to dissuade them at all. He stood together silently and looked at Qin Feiyong with gloating eyes. Sorry, it's all our fault. We apologize. Sirs, please be magnanimous. Don't lower yourself to our level, okay? Facing such a situation, the black-clothed young man and the white-clothed young man were very nervous. They kept hinting Qin Feiyong to apologize. There's no need to be afraid. Qin Feiyong smiled placatingly. Then he returned to the table and sat down. He looked at the 6 and asked, "You are also Demon Palace's disciples?" "That's right. How about it? Do you want to beat us up? Do you have the guts?" The 6 were extremely arrogant and fearless. They felt like they were the rulers of the Eastern continent. As Demon Palace's disciples, you are not cultivating properly in the Demon Palace, working hard to become the pillars of the Eastern continent, protecting the people of this continent. Instead, you come out to seek pleasure and bully others. Let me ask you, are you worthy of the resources that the Demon Palace gave you? Qin Feiyong asked indifferently. Haha. He actually said that he wants us to become the pillars of the Eastern continent, protecting the people of this continent? He must be talking in his sleep. We haven't even had enough fun. How can we be in the mood to protect unrelated people? Let's talk about this later. The resources were given to us by Lord Hall Master. What does it have to do with you? The 6 kept mocking Xiao Chun. They looked at Qin Feiyong as though they were looking at a clown. I see. You guys haven't had enough fun. Then why did you guys enter the Demon Palace? Are you guys thinking of using the Demon Palace as your backing to bully others outside? Qin Feiyong's eyes had a hint of anger. What kind of people were they? They had given so many resources to nurture a bunch of irresponsible trash? No, these people were worse than trash. Are you done being arrogant? Fine. You said that we bully others because of our power, right? Today we'll bully others because of our power. Kneel down and kowtow to me right now and apologize. Otherwise we'll break your dog legs today. The 6 of them didn't hold back at all and were extremely arrogant. Is that so? I'm sitting right here. If you guys are capable, come and break my legs. Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered coldly. Do you think we don't dare? Theta Wangchuan laughed sinisterly and shouted, Brothers, kill him. All right. Kid, you're courting death. Don't blame us for bullying you. The 6 of them laughed and immediately surrounded Qin Feiyong. Are you guys done? However, at this moment, Shen Xiaojia, who was sitting at the table, suddenly stood up and stared at Theta Wangchuan and the others. She said in a deep voice, Don't forget that you guys are disciples of the Demon Palace. What you're doing is ruining the reputation of the Demon Palace. Junior Sister Shen, what are you talking about? We're protecting the reputation of the Demon Palace now. That's right. This ignorant fool actually dared to humiliate us in front of so many people. If we don't teach him a lesson, who in the Eastern continent will respect the Demon Palace in the future? Theta Wangchuan and the others said angrily. But you guys are the ones who started the trouble first. Shen Xiaojia's eyes were filled with disgust. Junior Sister Shen, I don't agree with this. We're disciples of the Demon Palace. What's wrong with criticizing him? If it weren't for the selfless contributions of the Demon Palace, would they be living such a peaceful life now? The few of them sneered. Bastard. I can't help it. Who doesn't know that the people who protect the Eastern continent and the Sky Cloud realm have always been Qin Feiyong and the others? If it weren't for the few of them protecting us, would the Demon Palace have the glory it has today? Not to mention the powerful Divine Kingdom. Even the dragons, the Feng people, and the Qilin race wouldn't be able to stop them. The black-clothed and white-clothed youths roared. These disciples of the Demon Palace were really shameless to the extreme. It was clearly Qin Feiyong and the others who had done the work, but now they were taking all the credit. They didn't even blush and spoke so righteously. Junior Sister Shen, do you see that? They're getting more and more presumptuous. If we don't kill them today, they might even ride on the heads of the Demon Palace and behave atrociously in the future. The few of them glared at Qin Feiyong and the others with undisguised killing intent. Don't you dare. Shen Xiaojia's eyes turned cold. She stepped in front of Qin Feiyong and the others and smiled. Don't be afraid. I'm here. The white-clothed youths looked at each other and couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. A smile also appeared on Qin Feiyong's face. This little girl was still as kind and righteous as before. Xiaojia, Theta Wangchuan frowned. Shen Xiaojia turned to look at the 7 of them and said coldly, Get out of the way. You. Theta Wangchuan felt that he had lost face. Do you really want me to tell you to get out? Shen Xiaojia shouted. Theta Wangchuan clenched his fists and turned to the 6 of them. He said angrily, Get out of the way. Senior brother. The 6 of them frowned. Hurry up. Theta Wangchuan roared. The 6 of them unwillingly retreated to the side. Let's go. Shen Xiaojia looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and said with a smile. Then, she looked at Theta Wangchuan and said, Don't bother me again in the future because you don't deserve it. After saying that, he walked out without looking back. The white-clothed youth and the black-clothed youth quickly followed behind Shen Xiaojia. Brother Feiyong, what about us? Lin Yi looked at Qin Feiyong, who was still sitting at the table. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly, got up and took Lin Yi. He walked past Theta Wangchuan and the others and walked toward the door. Wait. I will let you know the price of offending me. Theta Wangchuan's voice came into Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi's minds. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with murderous intent immediately. Sigh. Qin Feiyong sighed and stopped. He turned to look at Theta Wangchuan and shook his head. You have missed too many opportunities. What do you mean? This sudden sentence made Theta Wangchuan somewhat inexplicable. It means that you have missed a lot of opportunities to survive. Boom! Lin Yi said coldly. In an instant, a terrifying aura burst out from his body. The entire Tianyue building shook suddenly. Theta Wangchuan and the others spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out on the spot. Chapter 43-32. And Shen Xiaojia and the two young men looked back at Lin Yi in surprise. The same went for the other guests and waiters in the restaurant. What's going on? Someone actually dares to make trouble in the Tianyue restaurant? Don't you know who is behind the Tianyue restaurant? The people on the street outside also stopped and gathered around the door to see the situation inside. Theta Wangchuan and the other two smashed a few tables and chairs and rolled on the ground awkwardly. Then they all stared at Lin Yi, who was standing next to Qin Feiyang in disbelief. Her aura is so terrifying. The young man in white and the young man in black recovered from their shock. They glanced at the embarrassed Theta Wangchuan and the other two, and then at the murderous Lin Yi. Then they ran to Qin Feiyang and said in surprise, "Brother, your sister." "My sister has a bad temper." Qin Feiyang chuckled. Lin Yi couldn't help but roll her eyes when she heard this. "If I didn't feel your murderous intent, would I make a move?" "It's not a problem of temper, but her strength." The two were surprised and doubtful. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I forgot to tell you that my sister was born with extraordinary talent, so her strength is quite strong." When the two heard this, they looked at each other. "Just quite strong? Isn't this too modest? This aura has definitely reached the strength of the Great Perfection Dominator realm." They really misjudged. They didn't expect this so-called country bumpkin in their eyes to hide such a terrifying cultivation. When Shen Xiaojia recovered from her shock, she was also shocked. Although she used to live in the Shen family village, she had seen the world when Qin Feiyang and others fought with the king and the others over the Shen family village. At this moment, the aura revealed by Lin Yi was more than the Great Perfection Dominator realm. It was comparable to the giants of the major forces. So this brother and sister are definitely not a nobody, let alone a country bumpkin. You are presumptuous. How dare you make a move in my Tianyue restaurant? The waiter recovered from his shock and immediately glared at Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi. Noisy. Lin Yi turned her head abruptly. An invisible oppression was overwhelming. The shop assistant spurted blood on the spot, flew out and smashed into the counter behind. With a cracking sound, the counter shattered, and the wine jars on it fell to the ground. Reckless fool, I've tolerated you for a long time. Lin Yi glanced at the shop assistant contemptuously, then looked at Theta Wangchuan and the others again. What do you want? We are disciples of the Devil Palace. Senior brother Wang is a core disciple of the Devil Palace. The seven of them couldn't help but tremble as they shouted in fear. Lin Yi sneered. Don't talk about you mere disciples. Even if your demon palace's law enforcers come, I will still kill them. Hearing those words, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. Even the enforcers of the Devil Palace were killed? How much strength and guts did one need to be in order to say such arrogant words? What happened? What happened? At this moment, accompanied by a hurried roar, a figure hurriedly ran into the restaurant. The steward is back. You are dead meat. When the shop assistant saw this person, he immediately got up and smiled viciously at Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi. He immediately ran to the steward and shouted, "Steward, they are making trouble in our restaurant." Making trouble in our Tianyue restaurant? When the steward heard this, he immediately raised his eyebrows and looked up at Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi. A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. You, steward, should be taught a lesson. Lin Yi's eyes surged with cold light, and an invisible coercion oppressed the steward. Puff! The steward also spurted a mouthful of blood and stepped back again and again. His face was pale. So strong. The steward's eyes trembled. After stabilizing his footsteps, he quickly cupped his hands and said, Tianyue Restaurant's chief steward, Li Si, greets this young lady. Although I don't know what happened, please calm down. Li Si? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Why does this name sound a bit familiar? Brother Feiyang, don't tell me you know him? Lin Yi transmitted her voice. This name is indeed a bit familiar, but I have no impression of this person at all. Qin Feiyang murmured. Lin Yi smirked secretly and said, Since you have no impression, Then I will help Yue Qing and Yi Miao teach these underlings a lesson. Qin Feiyong laughed involuntarily. But suddenly, he stopped Lin Yi, looked at the steward suspiciously, and asked, "Are you from Tianyue Restaurant in Qianshan City in the North Continent?" The steward looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise and asked, "How do you know? It's really you." Qin Feiyong chuckled. "Have you seen me before? Are you also from Qianshan City in the North Continent?" The steward was suspicious. "I am not." Qin Feiyong shook his head. In fact, he didn't know this person. He just heard Demon Ancestor and others mention it. Li Si was originally not in the East Continent, but in Qianshan City in the North Continent. Qianshan City was a very small city. At that time, Li Si was an unknown waiter in Tianyue Restaurant in Qianshan City. According to Demon Ancestor and others, when the Tianyun realm and the Divine Kingdom held a friendly competition, Ryuko and Jiang Yunshuang wanted to kill Demon Ancestor Mu Tianyang, Dong Zhengyang, and Mu Qing and sent a young man to monitor them. As a result, in order to find their old enemy, Demon Ancestor and the others entered Qianshan City and found this person following them. They happened to enter Tianyue Restaurant and met Li Si. At that time, Demon Ancestor asked Li Si to help tease this young man from the Divine Kingdom. This Li Si was really a talent. He took an ordinary jade bottle as a family heirloom and finally forced the young man from the Divine Kingdom to kneel and apologize in public. Seeing that this person was so clever, Demon Ancestor and others specially mentioned him when they met Yue Qing later. It was because Li Si teased the young man from the Divine Kingdom and forced him to kneel and apologize that Qin Feiyong found it very interesting. So when he heard Demon Ancestor and others mention this matter, Qin Feiyong had a special impression of it. He just didn't expect that after not seeing him for so many years, such a young waiter would actually come to Cloudsea City and become the manager of Tianyue Restaurant. It seemed that this person's ability was really good. Because if this person's ability wasn't good enough, even with the care of Demon Ancestor and others, Yue Qing wouldn't have let this person manage the Tianyue Restaurant. After all, the manager of the main store was below one person and above everyone else. Wait a moment. I believe Demon Ancestor and the others won't be wrong. Qin Feiyong secretly said to Lin Yi, and then looked at Li Si and asked, "As the manager here, don't you stay in Tianyue Restaurant to look after it?" No. It just so happens that I need to go out for some business today. I usually stay in the store. But I didn't expect such a big thing to happen soon after I left. Please calm down. After I investigate, I will give you a satisfactory explanation. Li Si said. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded, looked at Lin Yi, and said with a smile, "You explained to the manager how this waiter flattered Theta Wangchuan and how he drove us out of Tianyue Restaurant." Okay. Lin Yi nodded. She felt that it was completely unnecessary. But since Qin Feiyong wanted to do this, he must have his reasons. In fact, Qin Feiyong's purpose was very simple. He just wanted to see if this Li Si would deal with it impartially. If he would, Demon Ancestor and others really didn't misjudge. But if this person abused his position for personal gain, then don't blame him for being impolite. After all, he also contributed to the establishment of Tianyue Restaurant. After a while, Lin Yi finished explaining the whole process. Li Si turned his head to look at the waiter. His face was full of anger. The waiter quickly knelt on the ground and said in horror, "Sir Manager, I was forced to do it. You didn't quibble." That really surprised me. Li Si's eyes were gloomy. When the waiter heard this, he couldn't help but want to cry. With so many people witnessing it, how dare he quibble? "Who forced you to do it?" Li Si asked. "It must be Theta Wangchuan. If I don't listen to him, I won't have a good time," the waiter said quickly. Li Si said angrily, "If you don't listen to him, you won't have a good time. Is he so powerful?" The waiter wanted to cry but had no tears. Li Si said, "I don't want to hear anything else now. Just tell me, what do I usually tell you?" The waiter quickly said, "You said that when we do business in Tianyue Restaurant, we must be honest and fair. We can't go against our conscience and treat the customer as God." You still remember? But what are you doing now? The siblings are guests of Tianyue Restaurant. They were bullied in Tianyue Restaurant. As a member of Tianyue Restaurant, not only did you not protect them, you even helped the troublemakers to drive them away? I want to ask you, who gave you the authority to do this? Li Si shouted. "I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Sir Manager, please give me another chance. The waiter was terrified. You ruined the reputation of Tianjue restaurant, and you want me to give you another chance? You should be very lucky that I didn't kill you. Get out of here right now. From now on, you are not allowed to take half a step into Tianjue restaurant. Li Si pointed at the door and shouted. Sir Manager. The waiter looked up at Li Si, his eyes full of pleading. Get out. Li Si shouted, killing intent flashing. The waiter shuddered and hurriedly ran out, tears of regret flowing down his face. Although he was only a waiter in Tianjue restaurant, one must know that Tianjue restaurant had become the fifth force in the Sky Cloud realm. Even if he was just a small waiter, he could still get a lot of benefits. Moreover, as long as he was willing to work hard, there was still a great future. Just like Li Si, who was originally an inconspicuous waiter, but now he had become the manager of the main store. His status was second only to the two building masters. What kind of status and glory was this? But because of a moment's mistake, he lost all of this. Not bad. Qin Feiyang muttered. I'm really sorry, both of you. I really didn't expect that my waiter in Tianjue restaurant would do such a thing. I apologize to both of you on his behalf. Li Si walked to the front of Qin Feiyang and cupped his hands and said, It's okay. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and secretly laughed. Back then, the demon ancestor and the others really didn't misjudge you. You are indeed a talent. Follow Yueqing and Yi Miao well, and they will not treat you badly in the future. Demon ancestor. Li Si's gaze trembled as he raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Moreover, he called the two building masters by their names. Who was this person? Chapter 43-33. Now in the Tianyun realm, only the dragons, Feng people and Kirin clan dared to call the two tower masters by their names, excluding the giants of various forces. Could it be? This pair of brother and sister came from the three major races? If they were from the three major races, then they couldn't afford to be negligent. Although the status of the human race in the Tianyun realm had improved with the help of Qin Feiyang and others, it was still far from the three major races. The most obvious difference was the foundation of the human race and the three major races. It would take many years to catch up with the foundation of the three major races. The shop assistant was expelled. Many people appreciated Li Si's approach, because at least it proved that the manager of the Tianyue building was not a person who fawned over the powerful. However, appreciation was appreciation. Theta Wangchuan and the others were still there, but they didn't dare to show it. After all, they were afraid of offending the seven people. Theta Wangchuan looked at Li Si, then looked at Qin Feiyang and Linny. A hint of resentment flashed in his eyes. He looked at the other six people and said in a deep voice, Let's go. He had nothing to do with the shop assistant, but in this situation, Li Si expelled the shop assistant, which was tantamount to slapping his face. He would remember this debt. Wait! But at this moment, Li Si stopped the seven people. Is there anything else? Theta Wangchuan turned his head and stared at Li Si. His eyes were burning with anger. The next time you come to my Tianyue building, please remember to make a reservation in advance. Don't make such a joke again. Moreover, my Tianyue building is not specially open for your demon hall. Even if you are the core disciples of Demon Hall, in my eyes, you are no different from others. You are all guests of my Tianyue building. I treat you all equally. Also, let me give you a piece of advice. The next time you come to my Tianyue building, don't be so arrogant. Others are afraid of you Demon Hall disciples, but my Tianyue building is not. You will slowly understand the reason. When you leave, settle the bill by the way. After Li Si finished speaking, he looked at the seven people expressionlessly. Others are afraid of Demon Hall disciples, but Tianyue building is not. This sentence was full of meaning. Li Si was indirectly telling the seven of them not to think about taking revenge on the Tianyue Tower because the backer behind the Tianyue Tower was the same as the backer behind the Devil Hall, Qin Feiyang. Even the big shots of your Demon Hall have to be polite to the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, let alone you mere disciples. Theta Wangchuan stared darkly at Li Si. He took out a pile of soul stones and threw them on the table. Then he led the other six people and left without a word. After the seven people left, the surrounding guests could not help but give Li Si a thumbs up. In the meantime, The way he looked at Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi also changed. This was a form of awe. Of course, there was also a trace of doubt. Who exactly were these siblings? A woman who looked so delicate actually possessed such terrifying strength. Once again, I'm sorry. Li Si turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and the other man. He cupped his hands and smiled. I'm fine. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Shen Xiaojia walked over, bowed and said, I also apologize to the two of you on behalf of the Devil Hall. This has nothing to do with you. After all, no matter where it is, there are always some black sheep. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Thank you. When I return to the Devil Hall, I will immediately report this matter to the law enforcers above. I hope the 7 of them can get the punishment they deserve. Shen Xiaojia said. Hope? Lin Yi was slightly taken aback and said suspiciously, they despise the creatures of the Eastern continent so much. According to the rules, they must be severely punished to restore the reputation of the Devil Hall. Why do you say they are hope? It's a long story. Shen Xiaojia shook her head and sighed. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and looked at Shen Xiaojia with a smile. Theta Wangchuan is not a good person. You have to keep your eyes open. There was a hint of concern in his words. Thank you for your kind reminder, big brother. But I have never had a good impression of this person. The reason why I came to the Tianyue Tower this time is purely because we are from the same sect. Shen Xiaojia smiled. That's good. Qin Feiyang breathed a sigh of relief. He was afraid that this girl would be bewitched by his sweet words. If there's nothing else, I will go back first. Shen Xiaojia said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Shen Xiaojia smiled at Lin Yi and Li Si again, then turned and walked away quickly. Brother, you are too disloyal. Your sister is so powerful, but you didn't tell us. You made us worry for so long. The young man in black and the young man in white immediately surrounded Yi Shiwen with a hint of displeasure. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, brothers, don't be angry. My sister likes to keep a low profile. I can't do anything about it. The young man in white pouted, glanced at the guests around, and asked in a low voice, brother, should we continue to sit in the Tianyue Tower or go to the Western continent now? Let's sit for a while. Qin Feiyang chuckled. But, the young man in white hesitated. Are you afraid that they will find someone to take revenge? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. The young man in white nodded and whispered, this Theta Wangchuan is not a kind person at first glance. We should stay away from him. It's okay. As long as I am here, they won't dare to mess around even if they have a few guts. The 4 of you can eat and drink without worry. Furthermore, to express my apologies, all of your expenses today will be on me. Li Si said. The young man in white was still a little worried. Since the steward said so, what are we afraid of? We can meet in the vast sea of people. Now we have been through thick and thin together. This is the fate given to us by God. We can't let down God's good intentions. Let's go. Let's continue drinking. Qin Feiyang dragged the 2 of them and walked toward the table with pride. The 2 looked at each other and smiled helplessly. They could only sit down again. Lin Yi looked at this scene and couldn't help but shake her head and laugh. It seems that Brother Feiyang appreciates these 2 people very much. Li Si had been looking at Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi. His eyes were full of suspicion. Who are they? After the 4 of them were seated, he looked at a few waiters not far away and ordered, hurry up and tidy up the hall. While you're at it, tell the kitchen to add a few dishes and jugs of wine so that these 4 guests can eat and drink to their heart's content. Yes. Several guys immediately got busy. Calm gradually returned to the hall. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, 2 brothers, I haven't asked your names yet. Your names? The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They looked at Qin Feiyang and said, brother, aren't you making fun of us? We are just 2 little people. What's the point of asking for our names? Don't look down on yourself so much. Maybe you can become someone like Theta Wangchuan in the future. Or even better than them. Qin Feiyang smiled. Stop. I don't like to hear that. What do you mean by becoming someone like him? People with bad intentions like him will suffer retribution. The young man in white glared at Qin Feiyang with dissatisfaction. Ugh! Qin Feiyang was stunned. He quickly waved his hand and said, brother, you misunderstood me. I mean his strength. I believe that the strength and status of the two brothers in the future will definitely not be worse than him. Turns out to be like this. I thought you said that we will become villains like him in the future. The young man in white laughed dryly, pondered for a while and sighed. But then again, although Theta Wangchuan's character is not good, his talent and strength are really good. I am afraid it will never be possible to catch up with him or surpass him. Although we also want to make a name for ourselves, this is something that we know ourselves well enough to do. The young man in black nodded. So unconfident? Qin Feiyong was surprised. Both of their personalities and conduct were top-notch. The only thing lacking was their self-confidence. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyong smiled and said, if the two brothers can become an overlord one day, will you still fight for injustice and uphold justice like today? Of course. If you start to be selfish when you become stronger, how can you still be considered a powerhouse? The responsibility of the powerhouse is to protect the weak and maintain peace. The two spoke without thinking and hesitation. Their words were sonorous and firm. Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi looked at each other. These were the talents that should be cultivated. People like Theta Wangchuan were just a facade. Lin Yi smiled and said, when the two brothers become successful in the future, don't forget us siblings. When the two heard this, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The young man in white looked at Qin Feiyong and shook his head. Brother, your sister took it seriously. Haha. Who can predict what will happen in the future? Qin Feiyong laughed heartily. Lin Yi had not been so happy for a long time. She even accompanied the two young men to drink and teased. After talking for a long time, it seems that I didn't say your names. Are the two brothers some big shots? Don't dare to reveal your real name? Big shots? The two smiled bitterly again. The young man in white said, my name is Su Ran and he is Fang Xian. We have known each other for many years. Although we are not blood brothers, we are no different from blood brothers. Su Ran Fang Xian. Lin Yi pondered for a while, looked at the two and said, your two names add up to Ran Xian. No wonder you have such good personalities. Turns out that you have good names. Good names? Su Ran and Fang Xian looked at each other, then looked at Qin Feiyong and shook their heads. Your sister is really humorous. Haha. Qin Feiyong laughed. This girl is indeed more cheerful than when she was in the ancient world. It seems that Little Rabbit has been well taken care of in Sky Cloud Island all these years. The young man in black Fang Xian said, don't just tell us our names. What about you and your sister? Don't tell us that you are nameless. We. Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi looked at each other and smiled. We are really nameless. Su Ren's mouth twitched, and he said speechlessly, brother, you are a bit dishonest. We have already told you, but you still hide it from us. This. Qin Feiyong was about to speak. Boom! But at this moment, a powerful aura descended over the Tianyue building. There was a murderous aura in the aura. Chapter 43-34. This is. Su Ren and Fang Xian were shocked and immediately put down their wine glasses, because there were 7 auras inside. They were Theta Wangchuan's group of 7. Obviously, they were here to take revenge. Sure enough, they came. Qin Feiyong was very calm. But in this calmness, there was a monstrous murderous aura. Fang Xian and Su Ran didn't feel it, but Lin Yi clearly felt Qin Feiyong's anger at this moment. She also knew. Previously, Qin Feiyong didn't kill Theta Wangchuan's group of 7 in order to test the attitude of the Demon Palace's management. At this time, these people came menacingly. They didn't seem to be here to apologize. Li Si also ran out in a hurry. Looking at Qin Feiyong's group of 4, he comforted, you don't have to be nervous. I will go out and talk to them. After saying that, he quickly ran out of the restaurant. When he looked up, he saw 10 figures standing in the sky. In addition to Theta Wangchuan's group of 7, the other 3 were law enforcers of the Demon Palace. Their aura was very powerful. Let's go out and take a look too. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly, put down his wine glass, got up and walked out of the door. A cold light flashed in Lin Yi's eyes and she also got up. Fang Xian and Su Ran looked at each other and quickly followed. Their faces were full of worry. It turns out to be the law enforcers of the Demon Palace. Li Si chuckled, rose into the air, and landed opposite the 3. He cupped his hands and said, May I know what brings the three of you to my Tianhua building? Don't ask when you already know the answer. Quickly ask those four reckless things to come out and accept their death. Otherwise, don't blame us for not showing mercy to the two tower masters of your Tianhua building. The three law enforcers said angrily and arrogantly. Li Si's eyes sank and said, "The three of you, this is too much. I have investigated this matter. The ones who caused the trouble are the disciples of your demon palace. As law enforcers, shouldn't you discipline them? You don't need to worry about this. We will definitely discipline those who need to be disciplined. However, we will not let off those who offend the dignity of our demon hall. As for your Tianhua tower, don't think that you can look down on my demon hall just because you have someone backing you. Back then, if my demon hall hadn't agreed to let your Tianhua tower develop in the eastern continent, would you be where you are today?" The three law enforcers sneered. Good. You guys are being unreasonable. All right. As long as I'm here today, no one can touch the guests of Tianhua Tower. Li Si roared. He had seen the changes in the demonic hall over the years. But as a businessman, he couldn't care less about these things. Who would have thought that they would actually bully the Tianhua Tower now? If they were to swallow their anger, wouldn't the Tianhua Pavilion have to kneel before the Demon Hall in the future in order to survive in the Eastern Continent? You. Don't overestimate yourself. Although you are the manager here, your strength is not even comparable to an ordinary disciple of my Demon Hall. If you know what's good for you, get lost immediately. Otherwise, even if we kill you now, Yue Qing and Yi Miao won't dare to do anything to us. The three law enforcers were domineering. Theta Wangchuan and the other six were sneering. How dare these people overestimate themselves and go against the Demon Hall? Aren't they courting death? Wait. But at this moment, Shen Xiaojia hurriedly flew over. Looking at the three law enforcers, she said anxiously, "I witnessed everything that happened in Tianhua Tower. It was indeed Theta Wangchuan and the others who started the trouble first. You guys can't continue to be so unreasonable." Shen Xiaojia, what are you saying? As a disciple, aren't you a little lacking in manners to say that we, the law enforcers, are being unreasonable? One of the law enforcers glared at Shen Xiaojia angrily. Wasn't she trying to undermine him? But I'm telling the truth. If you guys continue to be like this, I can only look for Elder Hua. Shen Xiaojia clenched her fists. Even if you want to look for Elder Hua, you have to first punish these people who offended our Demon Hall's prestige. The three law enforcers' eyes turned cold, and their aura surged out. The Demon Hall is truly awe-inspiring now. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Lin Yi stepped into the sky step by step, exuding a bone-chilling cold current. What are you doing? Brother, quickly ask your sister to come down. They are the law enforcers of the Demon Hall. They have the power to kill all creatures in the Eastern Continent. We can't afford to offend them. Su Ren and Fang Xian quickly looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "It's okay." Qin Feiyong waved his hand and smiled. He also stepped into the sky and landed beside Li Si. "It's them." Theta Wangchuan pointed at Qin Feiyong and Li Si. Her eyes were full of murderous intent. "Kill yourself lest we have to take action." The three law enforcers looked at the two and said faintly, "Kill myself?" Qin Feiyong murmured. He looked at the three and said, "As the law enforcers of the Demon Hall, you have the power to kill all creatures in the Eastern Continent. Is this how you deal with it impartially? How dare you humiliate the law enforcers? You really haven't died yet." Theta Wangchuan laughed angrily. Lin Yi's eyes turned cold. She suddenly took a step forward and instantly landed in front of Theta Wangchuan. What a fast speed, this seems to be. Instant time, the three law enforcers' eyes widened. It turned out to be the supreme profundity of the law of time, instant time. What do you want to do? Theta Wangchuan panicked and quickly retreated. Lin Yi grabbed Theta Wangchuan and returned to Qin Feiyong's side in an instant. "Let him go. He is the core disciple of my Demon Hall. No matter who you are, as long as you dare to hurt him, there is no way you can survive today." The three law enforcers regained their senses and quickly shouted. Lin Yi ignored them at all. She raised her hand and slapped Theta Wangchuan's face. "Bitch!" Theta Wangchuan roared. But before he could finish his words, Lin Yi slapped him again. She was extremely strong. His teeth were scattered all over the floor. Awesome! Beating a core disciple in front of the law enforcers. I have never seen such a bold person. Moreover, it's a woman. The people in the city below were all dumbfounded as they watched. This was a complete slap to the face of the demon hall. Preposterous, preposterous. The 3 law enforcers trembled with anger. The faces of the other 6 disciples turned pale. This woman's means were beyond imagination. Fortunately, they didn't speak before. Otherwise, they would be the ones getting beaten up now. Qin Feiyong looked at the 3 law enforcers and asked, "Who is the person in charge of your demon hall now?" The 3 law enforcers looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise. "Say it," Qin Feiyong said. "Why should I tell you? Who do you think you are?" The 3 law enforcers roared in fear. Although Qin Feiyong had no aura at this moment and looked like an ordinary person, the invisible oppression made it difficult for the 3 to breathe. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with a cold light. Li Si looked at Qin Feiyong and whispered, "Now, the person in charge of the demon hall is the 3 hall masters." 3 hall masters? Qin Feiyong was taken aback. Yes, they are the resource hall master, deacon hall master, and law enforcement hall master. Li Si nodded. Law enforcement hall master? Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi looked at each other and asked suspiciously, "Isn't the law enforcement hall master Elder Hua?" Li Si explained, "Elder Hua has already given up the position of hall master. The current law enforcement hall master is the former deputy hall master." "So that's the case." Qin Feiyong nodded, looked at Shen Xiaojia, and said with a smile, "Girl, go and invite your 3 hall masters over." "Girl." Shen Xiaojia looked at Qin Feiyong in astonishment. "The other party doesn't look old. Why did he call me a girl?" "Go quickly." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. "Okay." Shen Xiaojia nodded. She opened a teleportation altar and walked up. The other party's smile seemed to have an irresistible charm. He even invited the 3 hall masters over? What does he want to do? Isn't he afraid that the 3 hall masters will come and take his life? Everyone's faces were full of surprise. Feng Xian and Su Run were also shocked. This brother and sister pair seemed to be more terrifying than they imagined. "Stop fighting. I'm begging you." Theta Wangchuan couldn't bear it anymore. She knelt in the void, looking at Lin Yi and begging. Her face was rotten. Her flesh was badly mutilated. It looked extremely tragic. "Trash." Lin Yi smiled disdainfully and slapped her again. Theta Wangchuan immediately rolled in front of the 3 law enforcers like a dead dog. The other 6 disciples quickly stepped forward to help Theta Wangchuan up, and hid behind the 3 law enforcers. Their faces were full of fear. The 3 law enforcers' faces weren't much better. Their faces were ashen. About 100 breaths. Teleportation altars appeared one after another. That's right. There was more than one teleportation altar. There were at least 50 to 60 altars. Following closely, one by one, figures began to appear. There were more than a dozen people on each altar. 50 to 60 altars meant a total of 600 to 700 people. Except for Shen Xiaojia, the others were all unfamiliar faces. Among them, 3 were the most prominent. All 3 of them were middle-aged. They wore gorgeous costumes with their hands behind their backs. They were like kings descending to the mortal world, exuding a domineering aura. The rest were all wearing the same costumes. Their aura was powerful and their eyes were sharp. They were all law enforcers of the demonic palace. Moreover, the aura exuded by these law enforcers was stronger than the 3 law enforcers standing in front of Theta Wangchuan. Obviously, they weren't here to apologize. Why did they bring so many law enforcers? This isn't good. Feng Xian and Su Ren's faces were full of worry. Li Si's pupils couldn't help but shrink. With such a terrifying lineup, it seems that we must ask the 2 house masters to come back to deal with it. However, Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi didn't change their expressions from beginning to end. They looked at the 3 hall masters. Lin Yi was a complete stranger. However, Qin Feiyong more or less had an impression of the 3 of them, because he often went to the demonic palace in the past. He had occasionally seen these 3 people, but because of the disparity in status, he had never come into contact with them. He didn't even know their names. "Lord Hall Masters, you have to uphold justice for this disciple. Look, what did they do to me?" Theta Wangchuan ran in front of the 3 hall masters and complained with grievances. The 3 hall masters glanced at Theta Wangchuan, who was beyond recognition, and looked up at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi. You guys are too bold to touch my demonic palace's disciple. The person who spoke was the current hall master of the law enforcement hall. Chapter 43-35. I'm beating him because he deserves a beating. Qin Feiyong said calmly. Do you have to look at the owner before beating a dog? Hearing this, the eyes of the Deacon Hall Master and the Resource Hall Master instantly turned cold. Qin Feiyong said, since he's a dog, shouldn't you, the owner, be responsible for him? He's really arrogant. The eyes of the 3 hall masters turned cold. The hundreds of enforcers behind them immediately swarmed forward and surrounded Qin Feiyong and the Deacon Hall Master. Qin Feiyong looked at the surrounding enforcers and could not help but sigh deeply. He turned to look at the 3 hall masters and said disappointedly, I thought that when you guys came, you would deal with this matter impartially. However, it seems that I've been thinking too much. You beat up the disciples of the Demon Hall. Now we're executing you on the spot. Isn't this dealing with you impartially? The Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall sneered. Is this what you mean by impartially? Is this what Elder Hu taught you? Qin Feiyong looked at the Hall Master. Don't be presumptuous. The Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall was instantly enraged. Sai, you've betrayed Elder Hu's trust in you. Elder Hu, I gave you the position of the Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall, in the hope that you'll be able to protect the safety of the Demon Hall. However, look at the enforcers under you now. What have they become? And these disciples have been abusing their power outside all day. As managers, you guys actually turned a blind eye to them. That's not right. You're not turning a blind eye to them. You're indulging them and siding with them. Have you ever thought that if this goes on, the Demon Hall will be destroyed in your hands sooner or later? Qin Feiyong's current mood could only be described with one word. Heartache. When the 3 hall masters heard these words, their eyes were filled with murderous intent. They shouted in unison, kill this thief immediately and show the might of the Demon Hall. Boom! Hundreds of enforcers immediately unleashed a terrifying aura. However, at this moment, an even more terrifying aura surged out. In an instant, it enveloped the entire sky above the city. Anyone who was under this aura was unable to move. The 3 hall masters and the group of enforcers turned pale with fright. Li Si stood beside Qin Feiyong and felt it most vividly. Suddenly, the cultured and refined young man next to him seemed to have turned into a terrifying wild beast, causing people to feel fear and despair. This is his strength? It's indeed beyond our imagination. Below, Su Ren and Feng Xian were also dumbfounded. They knew that this little brother was definitely not simple. After all, even his younger sister was so strong. However, he had never imagined that it would be so terrifying. Qin Feiyong turned to look at Lin Yi and said with a smile, as a core disciple of the demonic hall, you idle around all day, bully the people and waste a lot of resources. What should we do with such a person? He deserves to die. Lin Yi spoke coldly. She stepped in front of Theta Wangchuan and smashed Theta Wangchuan's head with her palm. His soul was annihilated on the spot. All that was left was a headless corpse floating in the air. It was a ghastly sight. The eyes of the people in the city below trembled. Kill him just like that? As a disciple of the demonic hall, you spend all day in the restaurant, seeking pleasure and indulging in debauchery. What should we do? Qin Feiyong said again. You deserve to die. As the cold words sounded, the other 6 disciples of the demonic hall splattered their blood in the sky one after another. Corpses floated in the air as blood gushed out. The void here had been dyed red with blood. The scene was extremely bloody. The people in the city were all dumbfounded. It was not enough to kill one but to kill all of them. The siblings were challenging the demonic hall's divine might. Where did their courage and confidence come from? As a law enforcer of the demonic hall, you can't distinguish between right and wrong. What should we do? Qin Feiyong spoke again. This voice was like the sound of the bell of death. The 3 law enforcers who came first were killed on the spot. They even killed law enforcers? Everyone's eyes widened in anger. This was too crazy. The demonic hall's disciples and law enforcers were two completely different concepts. If the former was said to be provoking the demonic hall, the latter was equivalent to directly opposing the demonic hall. In the current Sky Cloud realm, who would go against the demonic hall? Even the Feng people, dragons and Qilins had to be courteous to the demonic hall. Where did these two people come from? After killing so many people, weren't they afraid of the demonic hall's revenge? Helping the tyrant do evil, helping the villain do evil and not being fair. What should we do? The sound of the bell of death sounded again. At this time the Cloud Sea City was dead silent. Everyone stared at the woman in white in the sky. She was like the god of death, killing law enforcers one after another. The hundreds of law enforcers brought by the three hall masters were all killed in just a short while. Looking at this scene, even the three hall masters couldn't help but shiver. She killed hundreds of law enforcers without even batting an eyelid. What kind of existence did they offend this time? Qin Feiyong glanced at the three hall masters, looked at Lin Yi, and said with a smile, "There's no need to talk about the remaining three. Send them directly to hell and let them repent slowly." Okay. Lin Yi nodded and took a step towards the three of them. "No. Please. We are the hall masters of the demonic hall. If you kill us, Elder Hua and the others won't let you go." The three of them roared in horror. "No. Elder Hua, Chu Yuan, and the hall masters will thank me for helping them clean up the mess." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "You." The three of them roared unwillingly. But there was no room for maneuver, and they died on the spot. With the death of the three hall masters, everyone present felt like they were struck by a bolt from the blue, and their minds were rumbling. Not to mention killing the disciples and law enforcers, but also killing the three hall masters? One must know. These three hall masters had a pivotal position in the demonic hall. Killing them would definitely cause the demonic hall to hunt them down. Why are you so stupid? Aren't you courting death? You can kill the disciples of the demonic hall, law enforcers, and the three hall masters. But can you kill the three overlords and 10 elders of the demonic hall? When these overlords come out of seclusion, where can you hide? There's no place for you in the entire Sky Cloud realm. Su Ren and Feng Xian were burning with anxiety. Why were you so impulsive? The wicked will be dealt with by the wicked. Why are you trying to show off? Shen Xiaojia and Li Si were stunned as well. Never had they imagined that the outcome would be like this. They'd thought that Qin Feiyong had sent the three hall masters to Ocean of Cloud City to resolve the enmity between them and avoid being hunted down by the demonic hall. But never had they imagined that he'd actually intended to kill them. Now they'd really caused a huge mess. No one could save this pair of brother and sister. Do you think it's over just like that? Qin Feiyong muttered to himself as he glanced at the corpses floating in midair, and then a cold glow suddenly flashed through his eyes. A moment later, one figure after another appeared in front of him. "Greetings, young master." It was Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, and the other commanders of the Dark Guard who led the group. The 6,000 Dark Guard stood in an orderly manner behind them. Purge the demonic hall. Regardless of whether they're disciples of the demonic hall, law enforcers, or enforcement elders of the demonic hall, kill all of them without mercy. Besides that, the Independent Cultivator Alliance, Sky Hall, and Divine Hall will do the same. Clean up this trash for me. Qin Feiyong spoke. Even though the Independent Cultivator Alliance, Divine Hall, and Sky Hall had a good reputation, there were definitely some people like that amongst them. Yes, Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, and the other commanders bowed in response, and then they immediately led the 6,000 Dark Guards and vanished towards all directions while emanating a terrifying aura of slaughter. A merciless slaughter unfolded just like that. At the same time, Shen Xiaojia, Li Si, and many others in the city below were staring at the backs of Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, and the others. Don't all of you think that they look very familiar? They do. They seem to be. Wait. They're Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan. The others seem to be former Dark Guards of the Blood Hall as well. But didn't they follow Qin Feiyong and the others to the Divine Kingdom? Why would they be here in Sky Cloud Dimension now? Could it be? In an instant, the gazes of everyone converged onto Qin Feiyong. Their eyes contained bewilderment, awe, surprise, expectation, and anxiety. In such a huge city there was no sound at all at this moment. Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi looked at each other and glanced at the people in the city below. Lin Yi smiled and said, "Brother Feiyong, it seems that your identity can't be hidden anymore. When I asked old Pei and old Wang to come out, I already expected this outcome." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. "Then you?" Lin Yi asked. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and opened a space-time tunnel. He looked at Shen Xiaojia and smiled. "Girl, go back and ask Elder Hua and the others to come to Sky Cloud Island." After speaking, without waiting for Shen Xiaojia to recover, he raised his arm and grabbed in the air. Feng Xian and Su Run below immediately rose into the air uncontrollably, and then disappeared into the space-time tunnel together. Qin Dage at this time. Shen Xiaojia finally regained her senses and hurriedly shouted, "Are you really Big Brother Qin?" "Yes. I'm back. At that time, come to Sky Cloud Island with Elder Hua and the others." Qin Feiyong's voice came out from the space-time tunnel. "It's really Qin Dage." Shen Xiaojia looked at the dissipating space-time tunnel, and her eyes gradually filled with a mist. After so many years, this familiar person finally came back. "I have to hurry and tell Brother De Zhuang." When she recovered, Shen Xiaojia immediately opened a teleportation altar. Regardless of the corpses of the 3 palace masters, she ran up without looking back. Chapter 43-36. The scene was still dead silent. It wasn't until Shen Xiaojia left for a while that Li Si finally reacted. "He is Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong. The guardian of our Sky Cloud realm. He has returned from the Divine Kingdom. No wonder he knows my origin, no wonder he dares to call the 2 Tower Lords by their names. Haha. So it's him." The initial murmurs turned into laughter. He even cried tears of joy. Similarly, Li Si's laughter also woke up the people in the city below. "Is it really Qin Feiyong? Am I dreaming?" "Brother, you're not dreaming." He just admitted it himself and asked the big shots of the Demon Palace to immediately go to Sky Cloud Island to see him. "I was wondering who had the guts to kill the disciples of the Demon Palace, the law enforcers, and the 3 hall masters. So it's him. Haha. As expected of him, he can't accept any sand in his eyes. Those arrogant fellows of the Demon Palace are finished." Everyone was extremely excited. Who did the Demon Palace rely on to have today? Wasn't it Qin Feiyong, Madman Mo, and Golden Winged Wolf King? If it weren't for these 3 lords, the Demon Palace would have been destroyed by the 3 major races. No, not to mention the 3 major races, the Blood Hall back then was enough to destroy the Demon Palace. Because back then, the Alliance Master of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Divine Python couple were kidnapped by the Blood Demon. If the Blood Hall and the Vice Alliance Master's plot had succeeded, the Demon Palace would have disappeared from the Eastern continent long ago. Moreover, Qin Feiyong, Golden Winged Wolf King, and Madman Mo were now the honorary Hall Masters of the Demon Palace. Just their status in the Demon Palace was equivalent to that of the Demon Palace's Hall Master. Just with this identity, he had the absolute strength to kill the 3 Hall Masters of the Law Enforcement Hall, the Deacon Hall, and the Resource Hall, not to mention a group of law enforcers and disciples. Theta Wangchuan and the others are really blind. They actually provoked this person. If they don't die, it would be a waste of their stupidity. Look, who dares to be arrogant now? That's right. These scum of the Demon Royal Halls should have been dealt with long ago. Otherwise, do they really think that they can soar to the heavens? I can already predict that our eastern continent will soon return to an era of peace. Qin Feiyong is truly a great man. The crowd shouted. It was as if he had found a spiritual pillar. This was Qin Feiyong's current status in the Sky Cloud realm. The world revered and worshipped him. Very soon, the news of Qin Feiyong's return spread across the continents. This was like an unstoppable storm that swept through the entire Sky Cloud realm. Qin Feiyong. Grandpa is the person they are talking about. Qin Feiyong, who destroyed the Blood Hall, supported the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Devil Hall, and suppressed the dragons, the Feng people, and the Kirin clan. Southern continent. On a certain street, a 7 or 8-year-old boy asked innocently as he looked at an old man with teary eyes. "Child, it's not just that. Back then, when the experts of the Divine Kingdom came, if it wasn't for this Lord Qin who led Madman Mo and the Golden Winged Wolf King to fight at the front line, our sky cloud realm would have been destroyed by the divine kingdom. The old man rubbed the little boy's head and laughed hoarsely. Is it that powerful? The little boy didn't believe it. Child, you are very lucky and happy because you were born in this era of peace and didn't experience the difficulties back then. Back then, if it weren't for these lords who fought against the experts of the divine kingdom, I'm afraid we would still be uprooted from our homeland. The old man sighed. Are you talking about the Nether King's hell? The little boy asked. That's right. Back then, when the divine kingdom invaded our sky cloud realm, we were forced to leave our homeland and enter the Nether King's hell. Although it wasn't a long time ago, it was a painful memory that every living being would never be able to forget. Because during that time, everyone was filled with despair. Child, you can't understand this kind of experience. In the end, it was Qin Feiyang and the other lords who bravely stood up and brought us hope, rebirth, and brought us back to our homeland. The old man laughed. The tears in her eyes fell down uncontrollably. The little boy looked at the sky with an innocent and bright smile on his face. Grandpa, your grandson will definitely become a great figure like them in the future. No. Most of the so-called big shots are selfish people, Lin Feng said. You have to learn from these lords' breadth of mind, responsibility, and responsibility. You have to protect the sky cloud realm and the people of the world as your own responsibility. Only in this way will you be respected, understand? The old man lectured. I understand. The little boy nodded. The old man nodded with a gratified smile. He looked up at the sky and said with a smile, It's good that they came back from the divine kingdom alive. I hope the heavens will always care for them because they are truly good people. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. The return of Qin Feiyang and the others could be said to be shocking. The sky cloud realm, which had been peaceful for a long time, suddenly became lively. Even many people couldn't control their inner worship and admiration. Regardless of the obstruction of the Sea Beast clan, they frantically rushed into the Sky Cloud Sea. Sky Cloud Island. At the edge of the cliff. Inside the pavilion. Why did you come back so soon? And who are they? Demon Ancestor, Feather Emperor, and the little rabbit looked at Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi suspiciously, as well as Su Ran and Fang Xian standing next to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi had restored their true appearances. At this moment, Su Ran and Fang Xian felt like they were living in a dream. It's really Qin Feiyang. It's exactly the same as described in the legend. There are also Blood Ancestor, Feather Emperor, and the Little Rabbit. These are all famous great figures in the Sky Cloud realm. Usually they could only listen to the legends of these people, but they didn't expect that at this moment, they could see the demeanor of these great figures so closely. And this is still Sky Cloud Island. As everyone knows, Sky Cloud Island is the holy land of the Sky Cloud Sea. Not everyone can set foot on it. Qin Feiyang sat on the stone bench, picked up the teacup and shook his head. I have some troubles. I'm not in the mood to continue strolling. Troubles? The three were taken aback. Qin Feiyang took a sip of tea, looked up at the three, and said unhappily, Why didn't you tell me about the situation of the Demon Palace? Don't tell me you don't know. Turns out to be because of the Demon Palace. Isn't this just a trivial matter? The little rabbit waved her hand indifferently. Trivial matter? Qin Feiyang's face turned black. You have to understand a truth, the peak of prosperity must decline. No matter how glorious the forces were, there will be a day of decline, the little rabbit said. But the Demon Palace doesn't seem to have been glorious for long? Qin Feiyang was speechless. But you can't manage the Demon Palace for the rest of your life. For example, your children in the future, they have to learn to be independent sooner or later. The little rabbit waved its paws with a very indifferent expression. Because in this life, it had seen too many forces rise and fall, so it was already indifferent. Alright, I admit defeat. I can't win against you. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly, looked at Su Ren and Fang Xian, and said with a smile, Brothers, come and sit. Huh. The two of them panicked. Sit? Don't joke. You are all so powerful, how can we dare to be on equal footing with you? Su Ren hurriedly bowed and said, Sir, we didn't recognize you previously and even called you brothers. If we have offended you, please don't take it to heart. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Indeed, once his identity was exposed, there was no way to chat normally. Kid, who are they? The blood ancestor looked at the two of them suspiciously. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Feng Xian, Su Ran, we met by chance at Tianyue building. Met by chance? The blood ancestor and the other two were stunned. Wasn't it the first time they met? The first time they met, he brought them to Sky Cloud Island. What the hell was this kid doing? Previously, they thought that they were friends that Qin Feiyang had met in the Sky Cloud realm. Qin Feiyang was about to speak. Buzz. At this moment, a space-time passage appeared. A middle-aged man quickly ran out. It was He Zhongtian. Is this the temple master of the temple? Su Ren and Feng Xian were shocked. He Zhongtian looked at Qin Feiyang sitting in the pavilion, and a trace of joy crept into his eyes. He hurriedly flew into the pavilion and knelt down on one knee. Subordinate He Zhongtian greets the young master. He actually knelt down. Su Ren and Feng Xian were shocked. Logically speaking, Qin Feiyang was the honorary temple master of the temple, and He Zhongtian, as the temple master of the temple, had the same status as Qin Feiyang. But now, not only did he kneel down, but he also called himself a subordinate. It seemed that some of the rumors were not groundless. Lord Qin was the honorary temple master of the three major forces, but in fact, his status was above that of the major forces. Get up. Do you want to shorten my lifespan by giving me such a big bow? Qin Feiyang looked at He Zhongtian with dissatisfaction. He Zhongtian stood up and scratched his head. As a dignified overlord, he actually acted charmingly naive. If outsiders saw this, they would definitely be surprised. Buzz. Another space-time passage appeared. A beautiful woman in colorful clothes led two middle-aged men out. They were the three major forces of the Sky Palace. As soon as the three major forces arrived, they immediately entered the pavilion and knelt down to pay their respects. What the? Feng Xian and Feng Xian were dumbfounded. If they did not see it with their own eyes, who would dare to believe this scene? All these years have you been well? Qin Feiyang looked at He Zhongtian and the three major forces of the Sky Palace and smiled. Under your protection we have been well. He Zhongtian nodded and asked, what about you? What he said was true. If it were not for Qin Feiyang, the mad scientist, and the white-eyed wolf, the four major forces were nothing in front of the Feng people, the dragons, and the Kirans. We have been well too. Qin Feiyang smiled. Buzz. At this moment, another space-time passage appeared. Several figures walked out one after another. The Alliance Master, the Deputy Alliance Master, the Hall of the Exalted Hall Master, Yi Tian, Zhao Shaojin, the Shunmeng couple, the Fire Dragon, and the Black Dragon and Fire Luan, who were entrusted by Qin Feiyang to oversee the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Su Ren and Feng Xian looked at these people and could not help but gulp. Needless to say, the Alliance Master was an important figure who was respected by tens of thousands of people wherever he went. As for Yi Tian, Zhao Shaojin, and the Fire Dragon, they were like the sun in the sky in the western mainland these years. This was because they had opened the door of potential and also obtained the law miniature. Moreover, they had a time array that lasted 5,000 years. In addition, they were originally talented, so their strength had improved a lot over the years. Even their reputation in the Sky Cloud realm had caught up with the Feng people, the dragons, and the geniuses of the Kirans. So, many people of the younger generation knew them. Chapter 43-37. Qin Dage, Good Disciple. Good brother. A group of people appeared and ran into the pavilion. They looked at Qin Feiyang with smiles on their faces. Qin Feiyang also quickly got up. Looking at these faces that he hadn't seen in a long time, his eyes couldn't help but moisten. Because everyone here had an inseparable relationship with him. He loved Zhao Shaojin like a sister. Yi Tian, Fire Dragon, Black Dragon, Fire Luan, and the others were like brothers to him. The vice leader was his teacher. The alliance leader, the Hall of Famers, and the Fire Python couple were all elders that he respected. These were Qin Feiyang's family. Brother, there's no need to say anything else. Just come back alive. Black Dragon transformed into his human form and turned into a coarse man. He stepped forward and gave Qin Feiyang a big bear hug. Thank you, Brother Black Dragon. Qin Feiyang wiped away his tears. No matter how much time had passed, everyone's feelings for him would not fade. Is third brother that popular? Little Rabbit muttered and looked at Qin Feiyang. Fire Dragon bared his teeth and said, Uncle Rabbit, are you jealous? Or envious? Get lost. Little Rabbit glared at him. Qin Feiyong looked at the alliance leader and the others and asked, "Where are senior brother and Xiao Xian?" "They're accompanying Zhuo Tiansheng, Lu Zhongyuan and Elder Yu." The alliance leader smiled. "I see." Qin Feiyong nodded in realization. His future father-in-law indeed needed to be accompanied. Buzz. Another space-time tunnel appeared. The blood ancestor looked up and said with a smile, "It seems that there won't be enough people here today." Now that the news of Qin Feiyong and the others' return had spread, their former friends and old friends would definitely come to Sky Cloud Island one after another. This is Uncle Rabbit's territory. When did it become a place for him to meet his friends? He doesn't treat himself as an outsider. Little Rabbit complained unhappily. "We're not outsiders to begin with." Feather Emperor chuckled. As the space-time tunnel opened, two familiar figures entered his sight. They were none other than Qi Xiaoyun and the white-bearded old man. "He seems to be." Su Ren and Feng Xian looked at Qi Xiaoyun in surprise. "Brother Qin." Qi Xiaoyun laughed heartily as he walked over with his arms wide open. "Brother Qi, how have you been?" Qin Feiyong also went up to him with a smile, and the two men hugged each other. Of course, they would stop when it was appropriate. Otherwise, people would think that they were gay. It really is the young patriarch of the Qilin clan, Qi Xiaoyun. It is said that this person is the future master of the Kirin. Right now, the various large clans of the Qilin clan are all led by him. Feng Xian and the other man mumbled. This was too shocking. However, at this moment, another space-time tunnel. A gentle and refined middle-aged man walked out with a young man with an extraordinary bearing. "Greetings, uncle." As soon as the middle-aged man appeared, Qin Feiyong immediately stepped forward and bowed. This was because this person was Huo Wenchang, Huo Wu's father. "You still know to come back. I thought you had died in the Divine Kingdom." Huo Wenchang looked at Qin Feiyong with tears in his eyes. "Father, what time is it now? Why are you still saying such inauspicious things?" The young man beside him looked at Huo Wenchang speechlessly. Then he looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Qin Dage, long time no see. You seem to have become more handsome." "Is that so? You have a good eye." Qin Feiyong chuckled. This young man was Huafeng's younger brother, Pyrotechnic Glow. He was a young man who liked to drink. "Right? I am the one with the best eye. Big brother, we haven't seen each other for so many years. Shouldn't you prepare a gift for me?" Pyrotechnic Glow grinned. Qin Feiyong was stunned and said, "Go find your brother-in-law." "Brother-in-law? Brother-in-law is back too? Why don't I see him?" Pyrotechnic Glow was slightly taken aback. He quickly looked around and didn't see anyone. Qin Feiyong glanced at the blood ancestor. The blood ancestor couldn't help but stare at the mention of the white-eyed wolf. "What's wrong?" Pyrotechnic Glow was suspicious. "Nothing." Qin Feiyong shook his head and waved his hand. Huo Wu and Li Feng appeared. "Father." "Old man." The two immediately ran to Huo Wenchang and the blood ancestor. "What old man? Do you want to be beaten up?" The blood ancestor's face darkened. "Hee with your old bones. I'm afraid you won't be able to beat me now." Li Feng grinned. The blood ancestor's mouth twitched. He looked at Li Feng and patted his shoulder. "Not bad, as expected of my disciple." "Of course." Li Feng smiled proudly. At the same time, Huo Wenchang, and Huo Wu were also constantly asking about their well-being. After all, they had been separated for so many years, and they had gone to the Divine Kingdom. They must have a lot to say. Feng Xian and Su Ren were already numb. Not only the Kirin clan but even the Feng people had come. As expected of Qin Feiyong. As soon as the news of his return spread, it attracted guests from all directions. Buzz. Soon, a space-time passage appeared again. The two looked up. Could it be the dragons? In fact, they didn't know that the dragons wouldn't come because Long Chan and Long Qin had already returned to the dragon nest. However, Qin Feiyong knew very well in his heart that it must be Elder Hua and the others. He also looked up at the space-time passage. Sure enough, the first to run out was Shen Xiaojia and Shen Dazhuang. As soon as the two came out, they saw so many people, and they were all overlords of the Sky Cloud realm. They couldn't help but be stunned. Then they suppressed their excitement and stepped forward to bow to each of them. The giants were naturally no stranger to Shen Xiaojia and Shan Dazhuang. Furthermore, they were full of praises for their talents. Of course, everyone knew that whether it was Shen Xiaojia or the others in the Shen family village, it was all because of Qin Feiyang that they could have today. After bowing to the giants, the two ran to Qin Feiyang. They were so excited that they couldn't speak. Especially Shan Dazhuang. Because Qin Feiyang not only changed the fate of the Shan family village, but also extended the life of his grandfather, Shan Mulan. Otherwise, Shan Mulan would have turned into a pile of yellow soil. Therefore, he not only respected Qin Feiyang, but also felt grateful. Just the two of you? Qin Feiyang asked. Just us for the time being. Shen Xiaojia nodded. What about Elder Huo and the others? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Shen Xiaojia hesitated and sighed. After they came out of seclusion, they found it hard to imagine the current situation in the Devil Palace, so they personally went to investigate. I see. Qin Feiyang was enlightened. Naturally, there was no need to doubt Elder Huo, Chu Yun, and the Devil Palace's Hall Master. After all, their contributions to the Devil Palace and their sense of responsibility were obvious to all. One could only say that they had trusted the wrong person this time, handing such a heavy responsibility to the three Hall Masters. There were too many people, and the pavilion could no longer accommodate them. Everyone gathered on the flat ground at the top of the mountain and sat in a circle. Feng Xian and Su Ran sat silently at the side, not even daring to breathe loudly. Qi Xiaoyun smiled and said, Brother Qin, you've caused such a huge commotion the moment you returned. This is really in line with your character. Do you think I want to do that? Asked Big Brother the Ancestor and the Ancestor. Didn't I tell them not to leak the news of our return? I didn't want to cause such a commotion. But there's no other way. It's hard not to be angry at the actions of the Devil Palace's disciples. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. The Devil Palace has been too arrogant in recent years. Qi Xiaoyun smiled. The others nodded silently. Qin Feiyang said helplessly, Then why did you all just sit back and do nothing? Do we dare to do anything? The Devil Palace is backed by you. Huo Wenchang chuckled. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. This reason was really irrefutable. Whoosh! This time, another space-time tunnel appeared. A group of people filed out. They thought it would be Elder Huo and the others, but it turned out to be the four guardian beasts, the Sea Lion Emperor, and the other beast emperors. How could this be? Everyone stood up one after another to welcome them. And the ones to welcome them were naturally the four guardian beasts. The four guardian beasts had not only guarded the Sky Cloud realm for many years, but they were also the teachers of the Human Emperor and the Feather Emperor. Therefore, their status in the Sky Cloud realm was not to be underestimated. You're back. The young man smiled hoarsely, looking at Qin Feiyang with a kind gaze. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, I'm sorry to have made the four seniors worry. Who asked us to be so useless? We can only worry silently in the Sky Cloud realm. Vermilion Bird shook her head and sighed. Look at what you're saying. In the past, if it weren't for the four of you selflessly guarding this land, how could there be today's Sky Cloud realm? And there wouldn't be a stage for us juniors to show our talents. Qin Feiyang smiled. No one could erase the dedication of the four guardian beasts to the Sky Cloud realm. No one was qualified to judge them. You brat, your mouth is as sweet as honey. Let's sit down and talk. Don't just stand there. Azure Dragon chuckled. Qin Feiyang looked at this happy scene with a smile on his face. Then, he turned to look at the Sea Lion Emperor and the other beast emperors. He chuckled and said, Seniors, have you finished the wine I gave you? The group of beast emperors looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. As soon as they met, he asked them if they had finished the wine. Could it be that in this kid's eyes they were all drunkards? Qin Feiyang whispered, This time when I came back from the Divine Kingdom, I brought back a lot of divine wine, and even a lot of top-grade divine wine. Really? The beast emperor's eyes lit up. Some of the beast emperors were even drooling. Qin Feiyang said, But they're all in Big Brother's hands. What? You gave them all to him? Then what are you saying now? It's not like you don't know that damn rabbit's character. Other things are fine, but divine wine, once it falls into his hands, can we still snatch it? The group of beast emperors looked at Qin Feiyong with resentment. Such a good thing, and you only think of your big brother, too heartless. Haha. That depends on your ability. Qin Feiyong laughed, walked to the side of Feather Emperor, sat down and chatted with everyone. The Sea Lion Emperor and the other beast emperors walked over and stared at the little rabbit. At this moment, the fearless little rabbit couldn't help but feel her scalp tingle. Chapter 43-38. The time spent together was very happy, especially the friends who had gone through life and death together. However, no matter who it was, Qin Feiyong never mentioned the Divine Kingdom to anyone, because this pressure and responsibility could be shouldered by him, the mad scientist, and the others. There was no need to drag others into it. Time passed quietly. About an hour passed. Buzz, along with the space-time tunnel, Elder Hua, Chu Yuan, and the Demon Hall Master finally arrived. Looking at the group of people sitting on the mountain peak, the three of them were both happy and sad. They were happy that Qin Feiyong and the others had returned alive. This was because they treated Qin Feiyong, the mad scientist, and the white-eyed wolf as their own juniors. Although they had been in seclusion all these years, they often thought of Qin Feiyong and the others who were fighting in the Divine Kingdom. They wondered if they were in danger. Were they doing well? They put down the matters of the Demon Hall and cultivated in seclusion with all their might. They wanted to become stronger so that they could help Qin Feiyong and the others share some of the pressure in the future. They were sad because they had worked so hard to lead the Demon Hall to an unprecedented peak in glory. But now they had become like this. Although it was not their fault, they were also responsible. This was because they had personally handed over the management of the Demon Hall to the three Hall Masters. This moment they felt very guilty. The Demon Hall was able to achieve its current status because of Qin Feiyong and the others. But now they had let down Qin Feiyong and the others. They could understand Qin Feiyong's current feelings. He must be very disappointed. Qin Feiyong stood up and greeted them with a smile. Elder Hua, Hall Master, Miss Chu Yuan, long time no see. The three of them looked at each other and lowered their heads. They were a little embarrassed. Qin Feiyong comforted them. The three of you don't have to be like this. This has nothing to do with you. Don't comfort us. Elder Hua raised his head and looked at the Alliance Master, He Zhongtian, the Sky Palace Hall Master, and the other big shots on the mountain peak. He sighed and said, "We are all managing a continent, but compared to them we are really ashamed." In the past hour, they had not only investigated the current situation of the Devil Hall, but also the current situation of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, Sky Hall, and Deity's Hall. Compared to the current Rogue Cultivator Alliance, Sky Hall, and Deity Hall, their Demon Hall was simply too inferior. Although the ones at fault are the three Palace Masters, we can't escape the responsibility either. We shouldn't have gone into seclusion and should have come out occasionally to supervise. Chu Yun sighed, her face full of self-blame. It could be said that as the Vice Hall Master, she was more upset than anyone else that the demonic hall had fallen to such a state. This was because she had always treated the demonic palace as her home. Indeed, when she was very young, she had already entered the Devil Hall and had always lived there. The Devil Hall had long become an inseparable part of her life. With this lesson, I'll pay more attention in the future. Come on, let's sit down and talk. Moreover, I even selected 2 promising geniuses for the Devil Hall during this trip to the city. Qin Feiyong smiled. Promising geniuses? The 3 of them were stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. He's not talking about us, right? Feng Xian and Su Ren exchanged glances, and they couldn't help but feel slight anticipation and nervousness in their hearts. Elder Hua gazed at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Are you really not angry?" "I'm angry. After all, I have feelings for the Devil Hall as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked Old Pei and Old Wang to lead 6,000 shadow guards to clean up the Devil Hall. However, I'm not someone who can't differentiate right from wrong. Moreover, this isn't something that all of you want to see happen, because all of you definitely want the Devil Hall to become better and better. But in the future, all of you really have to keep your eyes open and hand over the authority in your hands to someone you can truly trust." Qin Feiyong smiled. "Thank you." Elder Hua and the others gazed at Qin Feiyong with gratitude. With this sentence, their nervous hearts could be calmed down. Frankly speaking, Now that they were facing Qin Feiyang, they still felt a lot of pressure. This was because the current Qin Feiyang, be it in terms of strength or status, was no longer the young man from back then. It was no exaggeration to say that. Now Qin Feiyang could destroy a force with just a casual word. Old friend, don't blame yourself. Just be more careful next time. The Alliance Master looked at Elder Hua, who was walking over, and chuckled. How can I let you see such a big joke? Elder Hua pursed his lips. Haha. The Alliance Master couldn't help but laugh. Elder Hua glared at the Alliance Master and scanned the surroundings. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, where are the few of them? Senior brother and Xiao Xian are in the western mainland. Long Chan and Long Qin have already returned to the dragon nest. As for the white-eyed wolf, I don't know where he went. Don't bother about him. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. Elder Hua said, so, all of you returned this time? Yes. Qin Feiyang smiled. Good. Elder Hua nodded happily. Nothing could make him happier than this. Chu Yun asked, then the Divine Kingdom now? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, let's not talk about the Divine Kingdom. It's rare for us to get together, so let's talk about our daily lives. Chu Yun's expression froze. These words could be said to have a deeper meaning. The others could not help but look at each other. It seemed that the Divine Kingdom's matter was not over yet. Brothers, come here. Qin Feiyang waved at Feng Xian and Su Ran. The two of them looked at each other, immediately got up, and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. Qin Feiyang looked at Elder Hua and smiled. The two talents I mentioned just now are them. One of them is called Feng Xian, and the other is called Su Ran. Not only Elder Hua, but the others also looked at Su Ran and Feng Xian. They knew Qin Feiyang too well. Those who could be valued by Qin Feiyang were definitely not bad. I met them in Tianyue Tower before. I've tested their character and they're quite good. They originally planned to go to the Rogue Cultivators Alliance in the Western Continent, but I think the Demonic Palace needs talents like them now, so I'll hand them over to you now. Qin Feiyang looked at Elder Hua and smiled. So, they're going to the Rogue Cultivators Alliance? The Alliance Master, Deputy Alliance Master, and Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted were stunned. When they came back to their senses, the Deputy Alliance Master immediately glared at Qin Feiyang and scolded, Brat, you're poaching our people. Absolutely not. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand and said, Master, they're originally from the Eastern Continent. It's because the Demonic Palace has been overbearing these years that they can't stand their behavior, so they're going to the Rogue Cultivators Alliance. Then let them go. What do you mean by intercepting them halfway? This water has to be balanced. The Hall of the Exalted Hall Master also glared at Qin Feiyang with dissatisfaction. Since Qin Feiyang thought highly of them and even personally determined that the two of them were moldable talents, they would definitely have great achievements in the future. They couldn't just hand over such talents to the Demonic Palace. Hey, what's wrong with you? Are there no talents in the Western Continent? Why do you have to come to our Eastern Continent to snatch them? Elder Hua glared at the two of them. Talents don't discriminate between countries. Besides, the Demonic Palace has only yourselves to blame. The Alliance Master finally spoke. Since they're talents, how can we let the Demonic Palace get them so easily? Hearing this, Elder Hua glared at the Alliance Master angrily, but he couldn't refute. That was because it was the truth. According to their previous investigation, the Demonic Palace had indeed lost many talents over the years, and those talents had all gone to the Rogue Cultivators Alliance, the Temple of Gods, and the Heavenly Palace. We're all old friends, so why do you have to fight? Why don't you let them go to the Temple of Gods, lest the Demonic Palace and the Rogue Cultivators Alliance get into a fight and hurt our friendship? He Zhongtian chuckled. Then shouldn't we thank you? The leaders of the Demonic Palace and the Rogue Cultivators Alliance glared at He Zhongtian. We're all on the same side. Don't be so polite. He Zhongtian also looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. The leaders rolled their eyes. Actually, the Heavenly Palace is also very good. The Temple Master of the Heavenly Palace suddenly spoke. Everyone was stunned. Especially Su Ren and Feng Xian. They looked at each other. They were two ordinary people, but they didn't expect that they would become the hotcakes that the four major forces were fighting over. Was this Qin Feiyang's current status in the Sky Cloud realm? As long as he took a fancy to someone, Even if it was a mediocre person, they could defy the heavens and change their fate, becoming a dragon among men in one fell swoop? It really opened their eyes. They finally understood why Qin Feiyang and Linny would say those inexplicable words in the heavenly joy building. It turned out that Qin Feiyang had already taken a fancy to them since then. What did they do to deserve this? How could this supreme existence take a fancy to them? Aren't they just two little guys? What's there to fight about? Let them choose for themselves. They can go wherever they want. Little Rabbit waved her hand impatiently. That's right. Although we are strong, we can't control the choice and fate of others. Feather Emperor chuckled. All right. The Deputy Alliance Master nodded and looked at Su Ren and Fong Xian. Think about it yourselves. Do you want to go to the Demonic Palace, the Rogue Cultivators Alliance, or the Heavenly Palace or the Temple of Gods? The two of them glanced at the group of leaders and were silent for a long time. Suddenly, they looked at each other at the same time with a trace of determination in their eyes. Thank you, seniors, for your appreciation. As Lord Qin said before, we are from the Eastern Continent. Our families and friends are all in the Eastern Continent. If the Demonic Palace can really return to its former glory in the future, our first choice will definitely be the Demonic Palace. The two of them bowed and said. Hearing this, the leaders of the Rogue Cultivators Alliance, Heavenly Palace, and Temple of Gods couldn't help but be disappointed. Elder Hua, Chu Yun, and the Demonic Palace Master revealed a trace of joy. Don't worry. This old man promises that such a thing won't happen in the Demonic Palace in the future. Elder Hua said in a deep voice. Chu Yun and the Demonic Palace Master nodded. After this lesson, they didn't dare to be careless. This was because no matter what faction it was, only by treating their people well and leaving a good reputation would they be able to go further. The Demonic Palace had existed for so many years. They couldn't allow it to be destroyed in their hands. Since Senior Hua has personally guaranteed it, then us brothers will choose the Demonic Palace. The two of them looked at each other and knelt on the ground at the same time. Disciples Su Ren and Fong Xian greet the Palace Master, Deputy Palace Master, and Senior Hua. Good. Elder Hua was very pleased. He personally helped the two of them up and looked at Shen Xiaojia and Shun Dazhuang. He said with a hoarse voice, Xiaojia, Dazhuang, from now on, the two of you will lead them and teach them how to cultivate. Take good care of these two junior brothers. All right. Shen Xiaojia and Shun Dazhuang nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Shun Dazhuang in surprise and asked, Dazhuang, you're in the Demonic Palace too? Shun Dazhuang scratched his head and said with a silly smile, I wanted to go to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, but grandfather insisted that I come to the Demonic Palace to take care of Xiaojia. I see. Is your grandfather doing well? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Good. Grandfather has suddenly become a battle god and is very motivated. He's preparing to break through to the Divine Lord realm. Moreover, he often talks about you. Shun Dazhuang nodded. With his current condition, he won't have any problem breaking through to the Divine Lord realm, let alone the Divine Lord realm. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Divine Lord realm? Shun Dazhuang was stunned. He laughed dryly and said, I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult. Are you looking down on your grandfather? I've never heard of him. Old but vigorous? Qin Feiyang laughed and then glanced at everyone in front of him. He said with a smile, seeing that all of you are doing well, I'm relieved. This time he returned to give the inheritance of the ultimate profound to improve the overall strength of the Sky Cloud realm. Secondly, he wanted to see how these old friends were doing. And now it seemed that everyone was doing well. Chapter 43-39. Soon, two more people came to Sky Cloud Island. They were Yueqing and Yimiao. To them, Qin Feiyang and the others were not only their friends, but also their benefactors. Because without the support and care of Qin Feiyang and the others, Sky Joy Building would not be able to reach its current status. It could be said that everything they had now was all thanks to Qin Feiyang and the others. For an entire day and night, everyone sat together on the mountain peak, laughing and chatting as if they had endless things to say. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned white. The sun rose slowly. Buzz! As the space-time passageways appeared, Pei Tianhong, Wang Chongyuan, and the other Dark Guard commanders led 6,000 Dark Guards back. Every single one of them was emitting a bloody aura. Over the past day and night, countless people had died in their hands. Especially the people from the demon hall, almost 1/3 of them were killed. This was a terrifying number. This was because there were probably more than 10 million disciples in the current demon hall. 1/3 of them meant 3 to 4 million people. 3 to 4 million. Hearing this number, Elder Hua, Chu Yun, and the demon hall master were all heartbroken. They had only been in seclusion for a few years and the demon hall had already become so corrupt? It was really a profound lesson. At the same time, Pei Tianhong and the others' methods also shocked everyone present. In just one day and night, they had eliminated the 4 major forces. Such efficiency and methods simply made one's scalp tingle. Needless to say, the other creatures in the Sky Cloud realm naturally did not need to be mentioned. In their eyes, these dark guards were like the Grim Reaper. Last night, I saw with my own eyes that more than a dozen dark guards appeared in East Sea City. Their strength is too terrifying. There were dozens of enforcers in the demon hall. Facing them, they were completely like little chicks. They had no power to fight back and were killed on the spot. Yesterday in the Western Land, I also saw 2 dark guards. With a wave of their hands, they wiped out more than a dozen Rogue Cultivator Alliance disciples who were abusing their power. Everyone was discussing. Qin Feiyang's actions were simply inspiring. On the other hand, the people from the 4 major forces were terrified and uneasy. They were afraid that they would be targeted by the secret guards. The purge this time had also thoroughly intimidated some of the people from the 4 major forces who had been hoping for a fluke and harbored evil intentions. In the meantime, the rich and powerful families of the 4 continents were also deeply shocked by this bloody method. Although this time Qin Feiyang was only cleaning up the scum of the 4 great forces, it was undoubtedly a warning to the rich and powerful families. Today I can purge the scum of the 4 major powers, and in the future I can also purge you rich kids from rich families. Therefore, regardless of whether it was the rich and powerful clans or the small clans, all of them immediately called back their clansmen and gave them a profound education overnight. In the future, when they walked in the Sky Cloud realm, they must not cause trouble and bully others. In fact, they had even included this rule in their clan. Because no one dared to offend Qin Feiyang. Once he was enraged, it would be a disaster. Sky Cloud Island. Qin Feiyang sent Pei Tianhong and the others to the Black Tortoise realm, then looked at the big shots of the 4 major forces and said with a smile, "You won't blame me for taking the initiative to help you clean up the sect, right? Stinking brat, are you deliberately mocking us?" The group of big shots was speechless. It was their negligence that so many scum appeared below. Now that he deliberately asked this question, wasn't it clearly embarrassing them? Regarding this result, the Alliance Master, He Zhongtian, and the big shots of the Sky Palace were all very surprised. They originally thought that even if there were scum in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, the Divine Palace, and the Sky Palace, it would be a few. But unexpectedly, the purge this time actually cleared out so many people. Because these 3 major forces had almost hundreds of thousands of people. It was indeed incomparable to the millions of people in the Demon Palace. However, this situation was not a good omen. Because this meant that the people of the 3 major forces were gradually developing towards the Demon Palace. If not for this purge, the people under them would have followed in the footsteps of the Demon Palace sooner or later. How am I being sarcastic? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly, sighing. I just want the future of the Sky Cloud realm to be better and better. After all, the current peace is not easy to come by. Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. For seniors, Qin Feiyang looked at Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise and smiled. In the future, when the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure opens, we can't just look at their talent. The most important thing is their character. Yes. The 4 nodded. Young people, it was easy to learn bad things but difficult to learn good things. For example, some people's minds were not strong, and were slightly instigated, used or encountered some unforeseen events, and then embarked on a path of no return. Therefore, someone needed to guide them, let them recognize their mistakes, and correct them in time. Now the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure was the most desirable holy land in the Sky Cloud realm. Because there were countless opportunities and fortunes hidden here. And it was just right to use the Heavenly Cloud Divine Treasure to guide the younger generation of the Sky Cloud realm to be good. For example, at the end they could set a threshold for the character assessment. No matter how many assessments you passed in the beginning, in the end, only by passing the character assessment could you enter the heavenly cloud divine treasure. In this way it would allow everyone, or at least most people, to maintain a kind and benevolent heart. With the 4 of you as invigilators, this junior is very assured. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly, got up, looked at everyone, raised the teacup in his hand and said, "There's no such thing as a banquet that lasts forever. Here I wish everyone a better future." Everyone looked at each other and smiled, got up one after another, held the wine or teacup in their hands, and clinked with Qin Feiyong across the air. A moment later, after sending everyone away, Qin Feiyong looked at the Feather Emperor and said with a smile, "Old ancestor, I'm going to make a trip back to the Great Qin." Back to the Great Qin? The Feather Emperor was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded, turned his head to look at the space-time rift floating on the peak of the mountain, and revealed a look of deep longing. It's good to go back and take a look. After all, you've been away for so long. After a moment of silence, the Feather Emperor spoke with a smile. Yes. Time really flies. I guess my brothers and sisters are already full of children and grandchildren. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said with a smile, "Then you have to work hard quickly. Don't wait until their great-grandchildren are all over the place, and you won't even have one." The blood ancestor looked at Qin Feiyong mockingly. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. In the face of these elders, he was most afraid of them urging him to have children. "Qin Dage, can I go to the Great Qin with you to have a look?" Li Feng asked. His eyes were full of expectation and curiosity. Qin Feiyong was taken aback and said with a smile, "Of course." Heh. Li Feng bared his teeth. He had long yearned for the Great Qin. Qin Feiyong looked at Lin Yi again and asked, "Do you want to go back and have a look?" Lin Yi lowered her head. Qin Feiyong comforted her. "Don't worry, what happened back then has passed. No one will blame you." Really? Lin Yi looked at Qin Feiyong a little nervous. The Great Qin was her home. How could she not want to go back? But the past scenes had been hidden in her heart, making her not have the courage to go back and face her homeland again. Qin Feiyong nodded and gave an encouraging look. "Okay, I'll go back." Under Qin Feiyong's encouragement, Lin Yi finally nodded. In fact, running away was not a solution. She had to face what she had to face. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly, turned to look at Li Feng and said, "Send a message to the white-eyed wolf and senior brother. Tell them to come back quickly." Li Feng nodded and took out the voice transmission stone. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and looked at the Feather Emperor trio. "Do the 3 of you want to go?" Feather Emperor said helplessly, "You have given us so many ultimate profound inheritances. Can we still leave now?" Qin Feiyong laughed involuntarily. Then his face turned serious. He looked at the trio and asked, "Where are the 2 ancestors now?" The trio looked hesitant. "How long do you plan to hide it from me?" Qin Feiyong's face darkened. "Ahem." The little rabbit coughed dryly and said, "Hasn't Mu Qing's omniscient eye evolved? Let him look for it. If Mu Qing can be found, why would I ask you?" Qin Feiyong glared at him angrily. "Even Mu Qing can't be found?" The little rabbit was surprised. "We can find it. However, we don't know where it is." Qin Feiyong shook his head helplessly. "It seems that omniscient eye is not omnipotent." The little rabbit grinned and said, "Don't be anxious. When the time is right, they will naturally appear." Looking at the smug look on the little rabbit's face, Qin Feiyong really wanted to kick it. "We know that you must miss them very much. However, this is a rare opportunity for them. Don't ask for it for the time being." Feather Emperor smiled. "All right." Qin Feiyong was helpless. Since it was a great opportunity, he had to endure it first. The blood ancestor looked at Qin Feiyong and said in a low voice, "Kid, you have to take good care of my little cub." "Little cub?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. A hint of mockery flashed in his eyes as he asked suspiciously, "Who?" The blood ancestor's face darkened. He said angrily, "Aren't you asking the obvious? If you don't tell me clearly, how would I know?" Qin Feiyong looked aggrieved. "Are you asking for a beating?" The blood ancestor raised his fist and was about to beat him up. Qin Feiyong quickly dodged and said with an embarrassed smile, "You're so old. Why are you still so hot-tempered?" "Who told you that old people don't have a temper?" The blood ancestor snorted. Yes, yes, yes. The older you get, the hotter your temper becomes. Qin Feiyong nodded and asked in a low voice. Then when are you going to meet him? The blood ancestor suddenly hesitated. Li Feng had already finished his transmission. He grinned at the blood ancestor and said, I didn't expect that the great demon king of the sky cloud realm would have a timid moment. Get lost. The blood ancestor's face darkened. He glared at Li Feng and said, Let me tell you, he is my son and you are my disciple. You are brothers. You have to take good care of him for me in the future. Then won't I be his nanny? No. I don't even have anyone to take care of me. Li Feng shook his head. You are simply a sinful disciple. How could I have been so blind to fall in love with such a heartless bastard like you? The blood ancestor was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. Chapter 4340. We already know each other. What else can you do? Li Feng chuckled. In any case, he was like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. The blood ancestor's face was dark, and his veins were bulging. I was just joking with you. Are you serious? How boring. Li Feng pursed his lips and said, If you're really worried, why don't you leave him in the sky cloud realm? Leave him in the sky cloud realm? The blood ancestor was stunned. He had never thought about this question before. He had always been concerned about Nangong Tianyu's future. The achievements of Qin Feiyong and the others were obvious to all. As long as Nangong Tianyu stayed with Qin Feiyong and the others, he would definitely become a great person in the future. So, the only problem in his mind was to let Qin Feiyong and the others take care of him. You have a son in your old age. What if something happens to him in the future? We can't bear the responsibility. Qin Feiyong also nodded. He agreed to let Nangong Tianyu stay in the sky cloud realm. After all, even he wasn't confident in the final battle with the Divine Kingdom. Buzz. This time, the white-eyed wolf, Frenzy, and Zhuo Shaoxian returned one after another. At first, they were a little nervous when they saw the blood ancestor. But when they saw the blood ancestor lowering his head and frowning, as if he didn't even notice his appearance, they couldn't help but feel puzzled. What's going on? The three of them walked to Qin Feiyong and asked in a low voice. He's hesitating about whether Nangong Tianyu should stay or leave. Qin Feiyong said and looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. Where have you been fooling around all day and night? I went to the dragons. The white-eyed wolf said. The dragons? Qin Feiyong was stunned. When Fire Dance heard this, she frowned slightly, glaring at the ingrate with hostility. She didn't return to the Feng people with pyrotechnic glow and Huo Wenchang. White-eyed wolf also noticed Fire Dance's gaze, and he hurriedly revealed a fawning expression. Madman rolled his eyes and chuckled. Brother Wolf, how long have you been apart from Long Qin? You're already missing her? Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf's expression changed. He said angrily, What nonsense are you talking about? Are you trying to sow discord between me and Sister Feng? You brat, your intentions are not pure. After saying that, he hurriedly ran to Fire Dance and said with a flattering smile, Sister Feng, don't listen to his nonsense. He's just jealous of our feelings, so he wants to drive a wedge between us. Fire Dance rolled her eyes. However, it was indeed a little unusual for this guy to go to the dragons. Seeing that everyone was looking at him suspiciously, the white-eyed wolf sighed helplessly and transmitted his voice. To tell you the truth, once I met Dong Zhengyang. He told me that if I wanted to find the Eye of Reincarnation, I could go to the dragons and take a look. What? Qin Feiyong and the others were shocked. The owner of the Eye of Reincarnation is among the dragons? Don't get too excited. Although he told us to go to the dragons, he didn't say which dragon it is. The white-eyed wolf thought. How many dragons can there be? Madman was puzzled. The dragons of the ancient realm don't count? The dragons of the sky cloud realm don't count. Moreover, with Dong Zhengyang's annoying nature, this so-called dragons may also refer to the purple gold divine dragon clan. The white-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other. The purple gold divine dragon clan was indeed considered a dragon. Besides, no matter what happened, Dong Zhengyang had the attitude of not revealing the secrets of heaven. Therefore, every time he answered their questions, he would be vague. Perhaps, the dragons he spoke of might represent the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. We now understand the situation of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. Moreover, if there is really the Eye of Reincarnation, the king and uncle would definitely know about it. They wouldn't hide it from us. As for the dragons of the ancient realm, they are now extinct. After a little analysis, it is very likely that they are the dragons of the Sky Cloud realm. So I went to the dragons to see if I could find anything? The white-eyed wolf thought. Then did you find anything? Qin Feiyang asked. The white-eyed wolf shook his head and said, after my tireless inquiries, there seems to be no information related to the Eye of Reincarnation. So it might be the dragons of the ancient realm? Madman was surprised. No. The dragons of the ancient realm have been exterminated. Wait. Even if the Divine Dragon Island was destroyed, there should more or less be some survivors in the world. Because back then when we sealed the Divine Dragon Island, the dragons were already suppressed by us. So, we can't rule out that some dragons are hiding outside because of fear of us. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. There is also the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. We can't rule out this possibility. After all, if this person wants to deliberately hide it, the king and uncle might not know. The white-eyed wolf analyzed. What a headache. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. If only the ancestors were here, because when old enemies meet, there would be rejection. But now, even if they locked onto the target, there was nothing they could do because they didn't have the Eye of Reincarnation. As long as the other party concealed it well, they wouldn't be able to sense the other party's hostility. Madman asked with a voice transmission. This matter is so important. Why did old Dong only tell you? He just mentioned it casually. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. Madman and Qin Feiyang looked at each other and couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed that Dong Zhenyang didn't take this matter to heart. Anyway, I'm sure that this guy definitely knows a lot of things that we don't know. It's just that he hasn't said anything. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. Qin Feiyang and the others nodded and felt the same. Many times they couldn't help but have the thought of interrogating Dong Zhenyang, but this thought was suppressed by them in the end. After all, Dong Zhenyang also had his own concerns. At this moment, the blood ancestor finally reacted and shook his head. Forget it. Huh. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at him in shock. A man's life should be grand. Besides, he is the son of the blood ancestor. He must shoulder the responsibility that belongs to him. The blood ancestor clenched his hands and said firmly. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other and couldn't help but give the blood ancestor a thumbs up. He was indeed a respectable old man. Then when do you plan to meet him? Fire Dance asked. Wait until the final battle between you and the Divine Kingdom is over. If we meet now, I'm afraid it will affect his mood. At that time, we will become a burden to him. Remember, all of you must come back alive, the blood ancestor said. Why does it sound like a parting of life and death? The white-eyed wolf was speechless. Cut the crap. This old man hasn't settled the score with you yet. The blood ancestor glared at him fiercely. So you haven't forgotten? The white-eyed wolf smiled embarrassedly. Hearing this, the blood ancestor suddenly burned with anger and roared. Although this old man is old, my memory is not so bad that I have forgotten what happened yesterday. Ha, the white-eyed wolf laughed dryly. Get lost, get lost. Just looking at you makes me annoyed. The blood ancestor waved his hand impatiently. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other, bowed to the Feather Emperor, the blood ancestor, and the little rabbit and said, you guys take care. The eyes of the Feather Emperor and the other two couldn't help but moisten. Although Qin Feiyang and the others were returning to the Great Qin, they all knew in their hearts that this was their final farewell. Because at that time, Qin Feiyang and the others would not come to Sky Cloud Island again. They would directly enter the land of the buried gods and quietly enter the Divine Kingdom without anyone knowing. This was the character of this group of children. They didn't want others to worry about them. They didn't want to see everyone sad because of the pain of separation. Nether King's Hell. After the madman took away the source of all evil, after all these years of precipitation, this place had undergone earth-shattering changes. Sky. Blazing flames shone high in the clear sky. Earth. The vegetation was lush and full of vitality. Although there were still no humans here, there were many ferocious beasts. It could even be said that this was a paradise for ferocious beasts. Swish! In the sky above a mountain, a space-time passage suddenly appeared, immediately alarming the ferocious beasts in the mountains. This seems to be the power of space-time law? In our Nether King's hell, no one has mastered the power of law. Could it be a big shot from the Sky Cloud realm? Because the creatures of the Sky Cloud realm all moved to Nether King's hell to seek refuge, the ferocious beasts here were no stranger to the existence of the Sky Cloud realm. At the same time, a fire python appeared in the sky above. Greetings, Lord Guardian. The ferocious beasts prostrated themselves on the ground. Get up. The fire python opened its mouth and stared intently at the space-time passage. Suddenly, a familiar aura surged from the space-time passage. This is. The fire python couldn't help but be refreshed. It seems to be. Figures also appeared in the heads of the ferocious beasts below. Finally, the first figure appeared. It was Qin Feiyang. The second, third, fourth madman Zhuo Shaoxian, Fire Dance, White-Eyed Wolf, Lin Yi, and Li Feng also walked out one after another. Brother Qin, Brother Emo, Brother Wolf King. The fire python was extremely excited and hurriedly greeted them. Brother Fire. When Qin Feiyang and the other two heard this voice, they immediately looked down. When they saw the fire python, their faces were full of smiles. And in Qin Feiyang's hand there was a badge. It was none other than the badge he had taken from the jade box. Because the space-time passage between the Sky Cloud realm and Nether King's hell had not been repaired, they needed this badge to return to Nether King's hell. Qin Feiyang put away the badge and immediately greeted the fire python. The brotherly love was revealed in their hearts. The fire python said with joy, I thought I would never see you again in the future, but I didn't expect you to come back so soon. Never see us again? What do you mean by this? Are you cursing us? White-Eyed Wolf's face darkened. The fire python was taken aback for a moment and smiled bitterly. Can I curse you? You are all big shots now. You must go to a higher place. What are you thinking? Our brotherly love can't stand the test. Qin Feiyang had a trace of displeasure in his expression, but then he smiled and said, Don't talk about big shots. Even if we become the masters of the world, we will still be brothers in this life. The fire python was moved and nodded, yes, in this life we are all brothers. Although he was the guardian of miracle in terms of strength and status, the gap between him and Qin Feiyang and the others was not small. But even so, Qin Feiyang and the others had never forgotten about him. They were also not like some people who became arrogant and conceited and looked down on others. These brothers, it was worth it to hand them over. Chapter 43-41. The hell of Nether King is not bad. The sky is clear, the mountains are green, and the water is even more beautiful than a fairyland. Glancing at this continent that was completely different from before, Lin Yi's eyes were full of surprise. Because there was no destruction from humans, everything in the hell of Nether King looked very beautiful. Isn't this my credit? Madman smiled proudly. Bullshit. Zhuo Shaoxian whispered next to him. It's the truth. If I didn't take away the source of all evil and help everyone remove the control, would the hell of Nether King become like this? Madman said. It's true that it's your credit, but don't mention it all the time. You are deliberately showing off. Zhuo Shaoxian said unconvinced. Haha, a fire python laughed, looked at Laozi and asked, This is my sister-in-law, right? Sort of. Madman nodded. Sort of? Zhuo Shaoxian grabbed Madman's arm and said fiercely, Say it again. She looked like a little tiger that was angry. No, you are my one and only. In this life I have decided on you. As for other women, no matter how beautiful they are, I will not spare a glance. Madman quickly admitted defeat. It was too shameful to be bullied by his own woman in front of his brother. Fire Python looked at Madman in surprise. He didn't expect that the reincarnation of Blood Demon King would be subdued by a little girl. He looked at Zhuo Shaoxian and said with a smile, Sister-in-law, the changes in the hell of Nether King are indeed thanks to Brother Madman. Did you see that? Did you see that? Even he, the guardian, said so. Madman looked at Zhuo Shaoxian proudly as if to say, "Little girl, it's your blessing to be fancied by me. Don't bully me all day. Be careful that I will divorce you one day." Zhuo Shaoxian rolled her eyes. What a shameless guy. Brother Qin, how is the situation in the Sky Cloud realm now? Has the divine kingdom been driven away by you? The ferocious beasts below could not help but ask all at once. The divine kingdom's invasion of the Sky Cloud realm was no longer a secret in the Hell of Nether King. Thank you for your concern. Everything is fine. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. That's good. Are you going back to Great Qin to reunite with your family? To be honest, you should go back and take a look. After all, you've been away for so many years. Your family must miss you very much. His words were filled with concern. Yes, I'm preparing to go back. Of course, I also wanted to visit everyone. Also, in the future, if the descendants of the Qin clan come to the Hell of Hades for training, please take good care of them. Qin Feiyang smiled. Haha, we will definitely take good care of the descendants of the Qin clan. Yes, we won't stop until we beat them to a pulp. The group of beasts burst into laughter. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. So that's how he took care of me. It seemed like the descendants of the Qin clan would have a hard time in the Hell of Hades. However, this was also a good thing. After all, there was a saying that a jade that was not carved would not become a treasure. All right, disperse. They're not national treasures. There's nothing to see. The fire python waved its claws and laughed. That's easy. Let them give birth to a baby. Won't that be our national treasure? Yes. Brother Qin, you have time now. Shouldn't you think about it? The group of beasts kept cheering. They were not nervous at all. Qin Feiyang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even these beasts were urging him to have a baby. The fire python was speechless. It said angrily, "Go away. Even if Brother Qin gives birth to a baby, do you think he'll let you play with it like a toy? That's not impossible." One of the beasts grinned. Then it turned around and disappeared. The other ferocious beasts also dispersed. Zhuo Shaoxian and the fire phoenix looked at each other. They didn't expect Qin Feiyang to be so popular in the Hell of Hades. The fire python smiled bitterly. It looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Brother Qin, don't mind them. They mean no harm. I know. The more they behave like this, the closer they are to me. I'm more than happy." Qin Feiyang chuckled. He liked this feeling of being free. It was unlike in the Sky Cloud realm and the Divine Kingdom. No matter who it was, they would feel uncomfortable when they saw him. The white-eyed wolf asked curiously, "Little Python, are there any changes in the Divine Demon Forest and Fallen Valley?" Little Python? The fire python's mouth twitched. It said helplessly, "I knew I couldn't escape this fate sooner or later." What do you mean? The white-eyed wolf was a little confused. I mean, don't give people random nicknames all day. Fire Dance glared at it. "Little Python, you call that a nickname? How about I call you Little Python?" The white-eyed wolf bared its teeth at the fire python. "As long as you're happy." The fire python shook its head and smiled bitterly. Fallen Valley and other places are definitely different from before. After all, there is no evil force in the Nether King's hell. However, the Divine Demon Forest is still the same as before. In comparison, it's less dangerous than before. Now, many beasts dare to go to the Divine Demon Forest alone to look for opportunities. Then it seems that the Nether King's hell will give birth to many sovereign realm experts in the future. The white-eyed wolf smiled. Definitely. Without the restriction of the rules, many beasts have broken the shackles and stepped into the imperishable realm. The fire python nodded. But there is still something missing here. Fire Dance muttered. What's missing? Everyone looked at her suspiciously. People. Fire Dance said. Don't. It's good like this now. If humans really come here, they will definitely create chaos in the Nether King's hell. The fire python quickly waved its hand. Old man, are you looking down on us humans? Frenzy was unhappy. Haha. It's not that I look down on you humans, but you humans are hated. Of course, that doesn't include you guys. The fire python laughed. Do you mean that we can stay here for a long time? Frenzy asked. Of course. You can stay as long as you want. I believe that the beasts here will welcome you. The fire python nodded. Not bad, not bad. Frenzy turned his head to look at Zhuo Shaoxian and chuckled. In the future, when we retire, we will stay here for a few years and live the life of an immortal couple. Zhuo Xiaoxian's cheeks blushed. Qin Feiyong looked at Frenzy and Zhuo Xiaoxian. Wasn't this wish also his wish? Wait! Suddenly, Qin Feiyong raised his head to look at the sky, and his face darkened slightly. What's wrong? Everyone couldn't help but be shocked, and looked at Qin Feiyong and asked. Qin Feiyong said in a deep voice, "Isn't the ruler of the divine kingdom in the Nether King's hell now?" Hearing this, Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, Fire Dance, Zhuo Xiaoxian, and Li Feng's eyes suddenly trembled. The ruler of the divine kingdom? Lin Yi looked suspicious. Why would the ruler of the divine kingdom be in the Nether King's hell? Not to mention the fire python. Even the ruler of the divine kingdom had never heard of it. Brother Fire, have you seen any traces of small beast and ice dragon in the Nether King's hell over the years? Qin Feiyong asked. No. The fire python shook its head and said in surprise, Are they in the Nether King's hell? No. Qin Feiyong frowned. It seemed that even the fire python, the guardian, couldn't sense the existence of ice dragon and small beast. Mu Qing, can you help me check where the ruler of the divine kingdom is now? An ice dragon and small beast, are they with him? Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and secretly transmitted his voice. Okay. Mu Qing's response immediately sounded in his mind. Chapter 43-42. Brother Qin, the ruler of the divine kingdom you mentioned, is it the lord of the divine kingdom you mentioned before? Fire Python was surprised. No. Qin Feiyong shook his head. No. Isn't the lord of the divine kingdom the ruler? Fire Python's eyes widened in disbelief. Because in his opinion, the lord of the divine kingdom was the most supreme existence in the divine kingdom. The situation in the divine kingdom is a bit complicated. The lord of the divine kingdom is just the master of the divine kingdom on the surface. The real ruler is someone else. According to Mu Qing's omniscient eye, the ruler of the divine kingdom is now in Hades' hell. Small beast and ice dragon brought him here. Qin Feiyong explained. What? In my Hades' hell? Fire Python's eyes trembled. As the guardian of this place, he didn't know anything about it. Lin Yi asked puzzledly, why did Ice Dragon and Small Beast bring him to Hades' hell? Qin Feiyong pondered for a while. In the end, he decided to tell Lin Yi the truth and said, because if this ruler is always in the divine kingdom, then we have no chance to establish ourselves at all. In other words, to restrain the ruler of the divine kingdom? Lin Yi asked. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. A bitter smile crept onto his face as he sighed. Although the ice dragon and the little critter are very hateful, I really have to thank them for all these years. Because if it weren't for them constantly restraining the ruler of Scandinavia, I'm afraid we would have already lost our lives in the hands of this ruler. Strange, why would they help you? Lin Yi frowned. What else can it be? They must have found their conscience. The white-eyed wolf sneered. Found their conscience? Lin Yi shook her head non-committally. It was impossible for existences like Ice Dragon and Small Beast to do something meaningless. The location has been locked. A short while passed. Mu Qing's voice finally sounded. Where? Qin Feiyong was shocked. God-Fiend Forest. The Small Beast isn't here, but the Ice Dragon is. Mu Qing said. What? They are actually in the mythical forest. Qin Feiyong stared blankly and asked, Are you sure? Of course. Mu Qing replied. They are in the mythical forest? Meanwhile, Madman and the others also looked at Qin Feiyong in shock. Yes. Mu Qing said that he and Ice Dragon were both in the forest of gods and devils, but they didn't see Small Beast. Qin Feiyong nodded. Impossible. I've been to the forest of divine demons several times over the years, but I didn't see Lord Ice Dragon at all, let alone the ruler of the divine kingdom. The fire python frowned. Brother Fire, although you are the guardian of this place, don't forget that the other party is Ice Dragon and the ruler of the divine kingdom. With their strength, if they don't want you to know, even if they are standing in front of you, you won't be able to find them. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. Hearing this, the fire python couldn't help but smile bitterly. It was indeed so. One was Ice Dragon, one was Small Beast. They were both unfathomable existences. Moreover, His position as the guardian of the miracle was given to him by Ice Dragon and Small Beast. The white-eyed wolf asked, "Do you want to go to the forest of gods and devils to take a look?" Hearing this, Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. They were a little restless. "Why don't we go and take a look? If it doesn't work, we will just take a look from afar and not provoke them." The fire python's eyes were also filled with curiosity about the ruler of the divine kingdom. "Okay." Qin Feiyong nodded. To be honest, he was also a little curious about the ruler of the divine kingdom. The fire python asked, "Did Mu Qing say where they are in the forest of gods and devils? Let me ask first." After saying this, Qin Feiyong secretly asked Mu Qing. A moment later, Qin Feiyong looked up at the fire python and said, "Mu Qing said that they are at the top of a giant mountain. This giant mountain has a very obvious feature. It is in the shape of a trident." Trident? The fire python lowered its head and pondered for a while. Suddenly its eyes lit up. As it waved its claws, an image appeared in the void in front of it. In the image was a majestic mountain range. There were many mountains and giant beasts running amok. One of the giant mountains was exactly as Mu Qing described. It was in the shape of a trident. From afar, it looked like a trident standing among the mountains. "Is it here?" the fire python asked. This was not an illusion. As the guardian of this place, just like Qin Feiyong in the Black Tortoise realm, the fire python could see the whole picture of the Nether King's hell. Qin Feiyong was not sure, because he had only heard Mu Qing's description. Whether it was true or not, he had to ask Mu Qing to confirm it in person. With a thought, Mu Qing appeared beside him. "Long time no see. How have you been?" Seeing the fire python, Mu Qing immediately greeted him. "Thank you for your concern." The fire python smiled slightly. Naturally, he did not have the same feelings for Mu Qing as he did for Qin Feiyong and the others. "Do you think it's here?" Qin Feiyong pointed at the image in the void. Mu Qing looked up for a while and nodded. "It's here, but speaking of this, he could not help but frown. He scanned the mountain peak and said, "Brother Fire, can you enlarge the scene on the mountain peak?" The fire python waved and the mountain peak in the image immediately enlarged. However, on the mountain peak, there was nothing but grass, trees, and gravel. "What's going on?" I clearly saw a small wooden house on the mountain peak with my all-seeing eye. Ice Dragon and the ruler of the divine kingdom are sitting in front of the wooden house and drinking tea. Mu Qing frowned. "You saw a wooden house." Qin Feiyong and the others scanned the mountain peak in surprise. With the fire python's magnification, they could see every blade of grass and tree on the mountain peak clearly. However, they did not see the small wooden house that Mu Qing mentioned. "Are you sure you're not mistaken? A few days ago when I went to the forest of gods and demons, I passed by this place. I did not see any wooden house at all." The fire python could not help but frown. Mu Qing activated his all-seeing eye again and said in a low voice, "I'm sure. They are on the mountain peak now. But why can't I see them?" Qin Feiyong glanced at Mu Qing and scanned the mountain peak without blinking. Mu Qing's all-seeing eye could not be wrong. There must be something strange about this. The fire python looked at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Why don't we go to the scene and take a look?" "Okay." Qin Feiyong nodded. The fire python waved its claws and a group of people immediately appeared in the sky above the forest of gods and demons. The trident-shaped giant peak was located right below them. Could be said that it was close at hand. However, even if they were to search at close range, they still could not find the so-called wooden house. Seeing a ghost in broad daylight? Mu Qing frowned. No, there must be something that we have overlooked," Qin Feiyong whispered. Suddenly, his eyes flashed as he scanned the mountain peak and muttered, "Could it be an illusion?" He had encountered such a situation in the Skybell Divine Treasure. At that time, the Black Flame Demon King came to find trouble with him and created an illusion. It seemed that there was no one, but in fact the Black Flame Demon King was standing not far away and looking at him. All of a sudden, his eyes began to change. Streams of life and death power constantly surged. Life and death eye open. The life and death eye could see through illusions and see through fabrications. The moment the life and death eye opened, the mountain peak suddenly changed into a different scene. He saw that the mountain peak, which was originally uneven in height, was now extremely flat with lush green weeds growing on it. The tall trees also disappeared and were replaced by lush small trees that surrounded the mountain peak. Here it was like a big garden. At the center of the mountain peak stood a small wooden building that was 2 stories tall. It was decorated with carved beams and painted pillars. It had an antique style and appeared to be quite exquisite. Beside the wooden building there was a pavilion. 2 figures sat facing each other in the pavilion, with a pot of tea on the stone table in the middle. But their faces were blurry, and it was impossible to see their true faces. However, it could be seen that the 2 were drinking tea while looking at Qin Feiyang and the others. That's right. These 2 people were Ice Dragon and the ruler of the Divine Kingdom. Old Qin, how is it? Madman asked. Qin Feiyang did not answer. The life and death I bloomed with divine light and shouted, break. The illusion was immediately broken. Everything on the mountain peak immediately appeared. When Madman and the others saw Ice Dragon and the ruler of the Divine Kingdom, they immediately became cautious as if they were facing a great enemy. Greetings, Lord Dragon God. Fire Python also hurriedly bowed. Who would have thought that this place was actually an illusion? Could it be that they had not discovered these 2 people all these years? Ice Dragon glanced at Fire Python indifferently, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the others with an extremely displeased expression. Not bad, you still have the mood to come back and stroll around. Can't we rest if we're tired? Madman snorted coldly. How long has it been? And you're already saying that you're tired. Is that all you can do? Seems that we really misjudged. Ice Dragon said. Don't just stand there and talk. White-Eyed Wolf's face was full of anger as he roared. Go and ask Dragon, cough cough. But before White-Eyed Wolf could finish speaking, Ice Dragon coughed and interrupted White-Eyed Wolf's words, and secretly gave White-Eyed Wolf a warning. White-Eyed Wolf originally wanted to say, go and ask Long Chan and Long Qin if they're tired after all these years. As for Ice Dragon interrupting White-Eyed Wolf, it was naturally to prevent his relationship with Long Chan and his sister from being known by the ruler of the Divine Kingdom. The warning at the back was also to warn White-Eyed Wolf not to let it slip. Tiske. White-Eyed Wolf's face was full of disdain. Of course he understood. But in his heart he really despised him. Even his son and daughter did not dare to let the ruler of the Divine Kingdom know. It seemed that they were not very good. Then why are you here now? Ice Dragon frowned. Is there a need to say? Of course we're here to visit this ruler. To see if he's used to living in our Nether King's hell. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted. The sarcasm in his words could be heard as long as one was not a fool. When Ice Dragon heard this, he looked at the silent ruler of the Divine Kingdom sitting opposite him and couldn't help but have a playful look in his eyes. Ruler, why aren't you saying anything? Aren't you curious about the current situation of the Divine Kingdom? And this time, how did we pass through the gate of the Divine Kingdom and return to the Sky Cloud realm? Li Feng looked at the ruler of the Divine Kingdom, who had his head lowered and was drinking tea indifferently, and the sarcasm in his words became even more obvious. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.